Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good time zone, everybody. Welcome to the Unite Battle Hub Anniversary Series. My name is Drake Usan, and today we have a wonderful set of casters and a wonderful set of games to provide to you today. We have Kanashi and Charles on the mic. We're all here from California, nice, bright and early. How are you guys doing, boys?
Been doing pretty good. Woke up, still getting reacclimated back once again to the California time zone. NAIC was this weekend, was an amazing series of games, and definitely looking forward to a shakeup in terms of our meta and everything that we're going to be seeing today.
How you doing, Charles?
Sort of, right? And I'm doing great. But I know today is the special anniversary series, so we got a little bit of rules that we got to go over here. And I know for NAIC, we saw a lot of speedsters dominating the meta, but no speedsters allowed today. Today is going to be a special tournament with only defenders and supports. So it's kind of going to be a wet noodle fight. Obviously, these Pokemon don't do as much damage as some of the other speedsters or all-arounders, right? So I'm really excited to see what we're going to have in store today in terms of team comps, because you have to get pretty creative to draft an entire team full of defenders and supports. What are your thoughts, Draku, on some of the damage dealers that we're going to have options for?
I think it's going to be really interesting. I think we're going to see a couple of characters that we don't normally, become the attack damage carry. I think when you're looking at some of the Pokemon that are available, I think maybe Gudra might be a huge damage option, and I've definitely seen some Gudra players like really pop off with that Muddy Water build. But we also have supporters as well, and so supporters are probably the best role in the game. Is often banned out very frequently. It's also picked first very frequently, and because of the shorter pool of or smaller pool of characters, we're not going to be in draft mode. So all of these supporters, all of these defenders are going to be available. Unfortunately, there are 2 defenders that are going to be out for this tournament. That is going to be Blastoise and Umbreon for various reasons. It might be bugs or whatnot. But once again, we do have a very exciting day for you guys. Here at Unite Battle Hub, we are celebrating our first year anniversary. It was called the Open Series, but for this month, it is going to be called the Anniversary Series. And for every single event within the Anniversary Series, we're going to have a special rule set. So today is going to be defenders and supporters, and we also got a couple more coming up later this month as well.
Yeah, and I'm highly excited for this. This is kind of the two classes that I play the most. So defenders and supporters, definitely interesting compositions. I'm really excited to see where the damage comes from. Obviously, no Umbreon, no Blastoise. So like Gudra was one of them that I was like, okay, maybe we might see that pseudo Gengar build where it just, hits you, Muddy Water teleports behind you, hits you again, and gets that reset. That's an option. I would also love to possibly see Crustle. It might be able to get that X Scissor Shell Smash build going. We'll see if that is going to be something. But yeah, just a lot of options and a lot of creativity that's got to go into these matches.
Yeah, I am personally hoping for the rollout Wigglytuff. All the way back to the first, couple months of the game, that was really fun seeing rollout Wigglytuff builds. And yeah, even Crustle. Crustle was, somewhat decent back then. We don't see much love for Crustle nowadays. So we're definitely going to see a lot of different Pokemon on the screen here. And, give some other Pokemon the love for the screen time. I'm very excited.
Yeah, a couple of other characters that we haven't really thought about. Umbreon and Blastoise really occupy, one of the top 5 spots in that defender role. But we also got to talk about Lapras, or we got to talk about Trevenant as well. I think they're also kind of in that upper echelon of the defender role category. Do you guys have any opinions on those specifically? We saw in NAIC, Lapras had something like a 60+% win rate throughout the entire tournament this last weekend. So I think that is also going to be a character that most teams are going to be picking up because of how powerful it is on the field. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I totally agree with the Lapras pick, and I think that it also helps that we're not playing through draft mode. A lot of Pokemon can get picked, but Lapras was one of those Pokemon that was either high priority or one of the first. I also think Hoopa is going to be another one that a lot of teams are going to be running into and utilizing quite a bit. So if the damage happens to be on the Hoopa as well, that might be another thing to look out for. But overall, I think that we will be seeing a lot of water pulse Lapras, not so much the Perish Song, just because we have a very HP heavy lineup moving into these kinds of matches. So yes, it's going to be really interesting to see what we happen to get and what's going to be played out here.
And right away, we're going to be heading off to our first set of the evening here. We're going to have Tugas over on purple and Double N over on Team Orange here. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to Kanashi and Charles, who's going to pick it up for this first set. Have fun, guys.
All right, thank you so much. So we are going into it, and Hoopa, like you said, just going to be very high priority, and looks like the first pick is going to be Lapras. No surprise here.
Yeah, Lapras is going to be the go-to, and now we see the lock-in for the Ghosts as well as the Snorlax. So Snorlax is one of those Pokemon as well that I was like, maybe Flail Yawn might be picked up today too. Just knowing how much damage that could possibly do. But it's really interesting to see what these lineups are. Obviously, once again, just for the people who are just coming in, it is only defenders and supports. So these Pokemon are either going to be super heavy, just being able to survive a lot of these fights, but also having a good amount of sustain. So I feel like that's going to be half of the battle, just watching these Pokemon go head to head here.
Ooh, Mr. Mime could be another damage dealer as well. More of kind of like burst damage by setting up the wall, pushing you into the wall with that confusion. So that'll be very interesting to see. But like you said, a lot of these team fights are going to be very long because these Pokemon are built to be durable, especially the tankier Pokemon like Lapras or Snorlax. They're built to be durable against a lot of the attacking types in the game here. Ooh, and Sableye. Wow, that is not what I expected. I know Sableye got quite a bit of nerfs, and a lot of people don't have too much faith in this Pokemon, but here we are. Got Sableye on the screen.
Yeah, we saw a good amount of Sableye being played, especially by Amaterasu this week on JL in particular. But just being able to go in, score in the back line, be kind of a menace is one of the great benefits of having a Sableye like this. But once again, it is like 4 supports and a defender on one side, and vice versa, 4 defenders and 1 support on the other side. So I feel like that is going to be half of the match. It's just figuring out how are these teams going to find not only damage but also synergy moving into these specific matches. But I'm really excited to see how these 2 team compositions are going to go ahead and face off here.
Yeah, and one thing to note as well is we don't have a lot of securing moves, right? That's going to be a little tough to get when you're picking all tanks, all supports. So we'll see how these objectives, like how well you can secure them. You might have to go through the entire team fight without even starting it, because flipping is going to be such a coin toss, especially if you don't have any moves that just have that burst damage for those objectives.
Yeah, usually we do see in the actual matches, we have a lot of Pokemon that have last hit secure. A lot of the defenders, on the other hand, have more of a constant chip trying to deal damage kind of build. And we'll see how it goes from there. But we are going to go ahead and kick things off once again. Tugas versus Double N to go ahead and start things off here in our semifinals match as we start seeing these teams go head to head.
And we'll see where everyone heads to. It seems like Snorlax. And one thing I do want to point out as well, the score shield, any kind of scoring stacking is going to be really important because you want to increase the damage. You want to scale into that later part of the game. And seeing where each team puts their center, which Pokemon they put in the center, right? That's a big indication of who's probably going to be doing the damage because most of the experience goes to that Pokemon.
Yeah, it also just gives them that experience buff to see like where they want to go with it. See that Scald landing quite early, and they're going to go ahead and chase that down right now, making sure that they can chip in a little bit of that damage. But once again, it's tanky Pokemon, not high damage, but we'll see what they can get. So we got the greeting coming in. Here comes the Flail-Axe looking to get him 1 KO. Gonna go ahead and punch the Clefairy straight down, and now we start seeing the chase coming even more onto Secco to go ahead and start things off. Another slap down, and the big berry is coming. Go ahead and snowball down on the rest of Tugas at the moment, but just overall great rotation and big damage coming out from the Snorlax to start.
Yeah, catching that overextension on to the tier 1 there on the top side. Sableye also stacking it up. Probably not going to be able to make it out. Or trying to maybe get a trade. Maybe another score. Gets it off here. Great stuff coming out from Sableye. And like you said, you called it out, right? That Flail Snorlax for the damage.
Yeah, and they decided to go through the central area as well, just to go ahead and get those levels early, get that damage up and running, and get ready to go ahead and collapse in here onto the rest of Double N. So we'll see how it goes. Once again, they're gonna go ahead and start things off. A big scrap in the middle over these mid Altaria. There's the Yawn to go ahead and hold up too, and the damage is coming right on top. Tobias trying to go ahead and line them up for the Flail-Axe. Flail-Axe is gonna have to leave out of here though. You start seeing the rest of Tugas trying to chase down this Sableye. They happen to get that KO, and now it's up to the Goss having that Cotton Cloud and having the Cotton Spore to go ahead and deal a little bit of the stun, but also the Pollen Puff to keep and sustain the team up with extra damage. So a little bit of a scrap in the middle. We'll see if they happen to go ahead and prioritize the bottom Reggie as we start rotating over there.
Another fight for the birds on the top side here, trying to get as much experience as possible. Double N definitely having the edge on the experience. The Snorlax already level 9. Oh my goodness, as this top siege continues here, trying to score as much as possible and push Double N back.
Yeah, and you start seeing how well they're playing defense. They have a lot of range to go ahead and hold things down, and scrambled eggs and tips are going to go ahead and get one to start, and now they're looking at the next. Meanwhile, down at bottom, they are applying a little bit of pressure. There's that Yawn going to go ahead and land instantly onto that Trevenant, trying to push them away. Horn Leech followed by the Woodhammer to go ahead and line things up, but just trying to get whatever they can. Going to go ahead and break this to start. No berries to go ahead and get that regen. Meanwhile, still down at bottom, still a lot of pressure coming through. No, the send back, the ultimate coming out from the Sableye. Gonna go ahead and send both the Slowbro and the Lappers all the way back home. And now double N trying to survive, have the numbers here. Safeguard coming straight through, looking for even more. And nobody's starting Registeel because they're too busy fighting each other.
And this wet noodle fight continues to go on here, but it looks like Tugas is able to get the first and maybe stack up another KO on the bottom side. And it looks like Registeel getting started as well as they push double in off of this bottom Reggie.
Yeah, bottom Reggie finally gets flipped towards Tugas to go ahead and start things off, but they do have 5 members down here. The Follow Me trying to go ahead and hold down Mr. Mime to go ahead and start things off. But not a lot of follow-up. Slow Beam, going to go ahead and hold down one. Going to go ahead and deal that damage, and now the chase is still there. You see the greeting getting super greedy, going for the Tokyo Drift build, and still hitting even more of the team, utilizing that belch to get a little bit of space. But Mr. Mime does not want to let this go away for free. But now starting to go ahead and rotate up the top. We'll see how the teams are going to go ahead and rotate.
Yeah, and it seems like this Flail Snorlax was doing quite a bit of damage in that early game, but now they're kind of reaching that mid-game area. The damage might be falling off, or the Pokemon on Tugas just might be getting too tanky. Now up on to the top side here, and it looks like Eldegoss is the one that secures the Regieleki here, but who is going to secure this team fight as, wow, Tugas just completely pushing double N off. They got the objective, but they did not get the team fight, and it looks like Tugas trying to get this top tier 1 top path score zone here.
Yeah, they have the top one right now. You see the Yawn trying to go through, but the Parasong is making this so difficult to go ahead and collapse in on here without having the heals or the abilities to go through. Oh, Warlord going to go ahead and push him straight into the barrier, trying to get even more going their way. But Sableye goes down here for the side of double N, trying to keep them alive with scrambled eggs, just tossing eggs, trying to get everybody on the same page. But the tankiness and the ability of Tugas just continuing on forward with all of this HP, it's impossible to shred through. You might have all the supports in the world, but you cannot deal the damage. You cannot clean it up, and they are still continuing on forward. Another Parasong hit, still chipping away at the rest of double N. Gonna have to run away as they're just getting collapsed on by the tankiness of Tugas.
Yeah, it just feels like Tugas is just grouping as 5, and you cannot mess with them. They're so tanky. They get so much healing done, and it's just so many players in one area, and the fight is still going on from the Regieleki, by the way, and now to the tier 2 top path score zone here. Finally, it seems like double N is able to push Tugas off, getting through all the tankiness, all the healing. Finally.
They happen to do that, and they're just trying to clean up the rest of them. And that is exactly what's going to happen. Double N happens to get that for just continuing on the fight and sustaining. So playing on goal, and now they're going to go ahead and look at the next objective as well. We'll see if that's going to help them with their spacing. It definitely helped them with their experience. So we'll see if that is going to help them right now as they're about to take another engagement.
Reggie is up for grabs here, and it looks like Tugas is the one engaging first here, not even engaging by the objective. They just want to take the fight to that, bottom path goal zone area, which has been taken here. Tugas being very aggressive in terms of taking these goal zones.
Yeah, you start seeing them trying to heal up. That Clefable putting in so much work as they continue to press Moonlight, just keeping the rest of the team up. But meanwhile, the Flail Yawn Lax just keeping up with the damage. Going to be able to run away here. Very close to dropping. Will the Parasong land? Not quite. The Yawn once again going to put them all to sleep, but can't quite stop the pressure that is coming out here. So we'll see how this plays out. Once again, both teams just trying to figure out where they want to go right before this final raid fight.
And it looks like double N starting up the Regieleki, but Tugas is coming here to contest it here, and Greedent just going into the fray. A bunch of disruption, and also pitching up the Regieleki. And I think Tugas is going to also pick up this team fight as well, and they can probably push this Regieleki if they win this team fight into that tier 2 goal zone on the top side here. And it looks like they're doing exactly that. But Rayquaza is on the field right now, so they can go ahead, rotate, and get positioning on this Rayquaza pit.
Yeah, that is exactly what they're going to do. They're going to start rotating straight through, making it possible for them to get some of these hits to go. And now Double N has to collapse in here. It's already down to half HP. You start seeing the Sableye getting into position right now. They are going to go ahead and collapse in on the Snorlax. It's going to be a big pick for Tugas to go ahead and start things off. And now they're trying to hold even more down to Clefable using Follow Me, trying to get even more of that damage. The coin flip, Double N happens to secure it with the Mr. Mime. And now they have an open range to go ahead and push on through. Is this enough to go ahead and give them the win?
Yeah, they don't have every member up. Only 2 members here going for the score. The Eldegoss going in for the defense here. Great positioning, great call, and it looks like the defense from Double N could pull through here.
Yeah, and they already had a little bit of a point lead. It's just a matter of if they can score or take the fight in one way or another. You see Ash dunking in the 60. That's going to be another big overcap to go ahead and start things off. And now starting to focus their attention onto the center goal right now. You start seeing Zealot trying to get in, dealing some of that damage and trying to hold them off. But even more of the push, the light screen, and just making sure that they cannot collapse in here. The rest of the team still applying pressure to this bottom goal. We'll see if there is enough time. Phantom Force going on right on top, but it's still an uphill battle, so they still need another 100 or so to go ahead and take the lead again. Berry Belly Flop going into the back line as well, trying to split off the rest of the team, trying to make them chase the squirrel instead. But we'll see if they happen to get enough scoring in going into these final seconds.
Yeah, even if you're very tanky, you still need to get the scores. So even if you just can't seem to get the KO, it's okay as long as these scores don't go in. And I think Double N did exactly that. Fantastic defense, fantastic flip at the Rayquaza pit. They're able to get the scores and sending back the Eldegoss. Just great macro calls all in all at the end there for Double N.
Yeah, we see the final tally going their way. Double N is going to go ahead and take this W this time. But yeah, overall, just really, I mean, tanky play overall. There was a lot of damage and a lot of team fight coming out of Tugas to go ahead and start things off. But Double N had a lot more utility to go ahead and use. Not only the Sableye to knock off some of the HP, but a lot of the pressure as well. Once again, Flail-Lax doing quite a bit of damage, but followed by the Eldegoss as well, with around 150,000 coming out from Double N. But the number that I was most interested in is Cap, not Ash, on Tugas. How much HP did they recover? Hitting that 229k healing on the Clefable is kind of insane.
That is quite the number there, and that's what you're gonna get when you have these really long team fights. Even just seeing the Snorlax, the Flail-Lax get so much damage in, as well as the Eldegoss. So just incredible team fighting all in all, and you just have to have the stamina here. And when it came to these 5v5 stacked team fights, it feels like Tugas had the advantage, right? It just felt like they were just an unkillable team coming through, and you just couldn't really mess with them. But at the end of the day, Double N was able to utilize the Sableye and get a lot of different clutch scoring. They were able to keep the pressure up in the early game with the scoring because of the Sableye, and I think their main objective was trying not to team fight. Like there's some situations where they just had to and they're forced to, but as long as they were able to kind of utilize the macro and utilize the mobility of Sableye going in and out of all of these areas, in and out of these team fights, and being able to utilize that, they're able to take this game number 1, even though Tugas had the stronger team fighting team.
Yeah, overall, like the team fight itself really went in Tuga's favors, but Double N had more of the utility. Just being able to run around, utilize Sableye to just dunk in points in the backline is just being purely annoying for that fact. Really helped them out. So I'm excited to see how they're going to go ahead and draft for game number 2. Obviously, we're still feeling each other out. This is a best of 3 format as well, so we have to go ahead and figure out what they're going to play moving into the next match.
Yeah, it felt like Tugas went for the more meta supports and tanks here, and it felt like Double N took a little bit more risk, obviously, with the Flail-Lax, the Mr. Mime, and stuff like that. So I feel like they took more, like you said, just more along the lines of utility. So we'll see how the second draft goes. I mean, Hoopa was automatically taken out by both teams, so we'll see if the same bans will occur here for this game 2.
Yeah, when it does come down to these matches, it's going to be 100% up to the way how they are going to get their damage straight through and figuring out their game plan as well. Those are the two things that I do want to like emphasize. It's going to go down to the healing plus finding alternative ways of damage. I still think Crossel is on the table. You know, you have that X-Scissor as the damage. But once again, we'll see how the teams are going to go ahead and face off. Obviously, once again, defenders and supports only, no Umbreon, no Blastoise. So finding the damage is going to be really interesting throughout the rest of these matches.
Especially with Blastoise out. I know a lot of players even look at Blastoise as, yeah, it's a tank, but you're doing so much damage with Blastoise, right? So I think Blastoise not being available is a very big deal here. Kind of forcing players to be a little more creative. And I would like to see the Crustle as well. And I mean, Crustle could play the same role as Sableye. Obviously, Sableye is a little bit sneakier because you can, well, one, you're smaller, and you just go invisible as well, right? But Crustle can be that annoying flank Pokemon that just goes ahead, goes into these side areas, and the top and the bottom path just get scores back and forth, get really good flanks, and have the damage on top of that, right? So that would be a really interesting pick. And I think in terms of just like the burst damage, you could really utilize that on the team here.
Yeah, and I feel like that was the play to go ahead and take advantage of, just having all of that speed. Like I wouldn't necessarily put it in the same category, but it does have speed and it has like going ahead stun damage. It's like a really, really thick Dodrio. I think that teams could utilize it kind of in the same way. But we will see how they have it to play it out. Yeah, the fastest rock crab you could ever think of. This is gonna be it. But yeah, we have yet to see it on broadcast. So we'll see if the teams happen to find another thing. We saw the Flailolax do quite a bit of damage as well. So really excited to see if they continue on with that. But as we're starting to get into game number 2 here, we have to figure out what the game plan is. Obviously, Hoopa off the table. We'll see if they happen to hit Lapras as well.
Yeah, Hoopa just seems so powerful because once you pop that Unite, you essentially become a DPS Pokemon, right? So you can go ahead and lay the damage down. So, and of course, the utility that we're talking about, that macro, just having that like map wide, or you know, just being able to go across the whole map essentially, right? Being able to teleport your team back to base, or just bring your whole team into the objective. That's always been strong, no matter what the meta is, no matter, you know, if we're playing tanks, supports, DPS, it don't matter. It's just always very, very strong. So we'll probably see Hoopa banned once again, but we'll see if it really depends, right? Because if you have first pick, you have more wiggle room to leave it up, because you could always just snatch the Hoopa. But we saw how strong Lapras was as well, right? Lapras very strong early game, and with that Parasong build as well, I think it's so good for what this tournament's rules are.
Yeah, and I think that it looked starting to look the same way that we do see our typical Unite matches go, where like Hoopa Lapras is like the first two that are gone off the table. Could even be Hoopa Slowbro as well. But it's going to be really interesting to see how teams adjust. And yeah, once again, I just want to know where the damage is going to come from. I'm most excited to see. Obviously, like if we happen to see more Wigglytuff, you know, rollout Wiggly is also an option. We've seen, yeah, we're looking at like the Lapras with Perish Song versus supports. That's worked pretty well because we know that they have to group up in order to fight. So we'll see if all of that happens to help them out as we move into game number 2 here.
Yeah, a lot of long team fights going on, right? And we saw over 200,000 healing on the side of the Clefable there. So that was really just crazy to watch. And especially when you're grouped up like that, that's when Clefable Lapras together on the same team just sounds so crazy. You know, group up, you're just this ball of unkillable. I cannot be taken down, and we're just coming through, and we're gonna dunk all on top of those score zones, right, and keep the pressure on. And it almost makes me wonder how much you want to commit to damage, because if you commit to more on the healing side, you can just outlast the opponent, right, and just eventually win the fight. That's what it seems like Tuga was doing there on that first one. But there was damage on the side of Double M, but it just didn't seem like it was enough. So when's the damage threshold enough in this kind of format? We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's that unkillable, or the unstoppable object versus an immovable object. Do you want to have something that can sustain itself as a unit for super long and just like never go down, or do you want to have something that can deal the damage and try to shred through their only form of damage and healing? We're definitely going to have to take a peek at what the options are and what is going to be on the table. But yeah, overall, just really good matches overall. Even though it is our first one, I'm hoping to see a little bit more. I would like to see more diversity, even though like Greedent is one of the more interesting picks. We'll see what the team's like mentality is going into this next match as well.
Yeah, Greedent feels like a very strong pick because you have the damage, plus you have the mobility, right? And we're talking about having mobility in general is just very strong, but I think especially in a format like this, where you just have really long team fights, if you can just break away from the team fight and be like, yeah, you know what? You guys can go ahead and team fight here. I'm going to go score. And at the end of the day, you can win every single team fight in Unite, but at the end of the day, it just matters what the score is after that 10-minute mark. And if you have the better score, well, you are going to get that W.
Yeah, so just a heads up, a couple of the Pokemon that we...
Oh no. Kanashi, no. All right, it's okay. I'm still here, and we're probably just setting up the draft here for both of these teams as we're getting ready to head into game number 2. But I'm pretty sure Kanashi will make his way back very shortly. But can't wait to see what other Pokemon we're going to see in this draft. Hey! Are you back? Hey!
I hope so. Yeah, so once again, heading into draft now, we might as well just take a peek at what we happen to get here. Yeah, the teams don't want to see Inteleon. That's fair. We just got it in today. Don't worry, guys. It's not an option in this match. So we'll see what happens to come out of this. But yeah, I would also love to see, like, even as a meme, if you happen to see a damage dealing Blissey, the full on like I'm unstoppable Blissey. I don't recommend playing it, but Safeguard Helping Hand Blissey with just attack build items, you just start slapping them instead, has been something that I have done as a meme before, has dealt a ton of damage, and we'll see if teams want to lean on that moving forward. But we start seeing the supports coming out. There's the Wigglytuff to go ahead and start things off for Tugas. They're going to go ahead and lock that one down.
Yeah. Oh, okay. The Wigglytuff, not the Clefable here. So Sableye getting picked up on Tuga's end this time. And looks like the Snorlax and nope. Okay, Slowbro is still on the table. Very surprised that the Wigglytuff and the Sableye getting locked in over some of these more, common picks here, like the Slowbro, like the Snorlax. But it looks like Tuga is going to go for a different approach. And the Crustle getting locked in. And how did Lapras get picked this far down?
We don't know. That is we're finding out a new meta right here, right now. Tuga's gonna go ahead and lock in that Crustle. I'm excited to see this Pokemon head up, and once again the Lapras to go ahead and follow things up as well. Very, very strong. But yeah, we'll see where this damage is gonna come from. The Mime and the Blissey gonna be the last pick. We'll see if the Clefable is gonna be the last one, or if they happen to go Comfey. That might also be an option as well. Oh no, the Goodra, it's still on the table and still hasn't been picked yet. So just trying to debate whether they want the sustain. They do want the sustain. They're gonna grab that. So 3 supports, 2 defenders for both sides. It's just a matter of where's that damage gonna come from. How are they gonna play it out, especially heading into this final bit here.
And Double N really leaning on that Snorlax for the damage. But Tuga's this time going to have a little bit more mobility in the form of Sableye, in the form of that Crustle, right? So maybe not so much a front-to-back team fighting team. And when I say front-to-back, I just mean front, because there is no back line, right?
Yeah. We originally I was looking at the team and I'm like, there is no range for the side of Tugas, but they'll figure it out. I mean, I think the main priority for this team is not to take the fights, but rather to just farm and score. When you have to deal with something like Crustle they don't have to go with the damage build. They could just go Stealth Rock's Shell Smash and just farm everything and just try to dunk that in. And while you're dunking that in, if you don't deal with the Crustle, the Sableye dunks at the same time. So it's kind of that whole idea of like pick your battles, pick which one you want to go ahead and face. And I do like that idea coming out of Tugas, but Double N looks like they have the stronger like middle and team fight, and hopefully we get to see that come to fruition as we begin game number 2 here, as Double N faces off against Tugas.
And we'll probably see the Snorlax once again go into the center area to farm up all that experience, get all the buffs for themselves. Looks like Lapras going to be going to that center area for Tugas for that experience. Yeah, man, I haven't seen Crustle in quite a while, so I'm very excited for this match.
Yeah, usually we see like the heavy damage coming out from the X-Scissor to go ahead and start things off. It's also really good last hit secure. Being able to stun and that last hit being able to deal quite a bit is really important for them. But we'll see how they want to play this out as they start evolving into the Crustle to start things off.
It looks like the Shell Smash coming out for the Crustle here. Great selection. That mobility we talked about. Going to be a huge factor in a lot of these macro plays, especially towards that mid to late game. Going to be able to get a lot of scores here and has been able to stack up quite a bit. I think that is the 3rd dunk now on Crustle.
Yeah, 2 bites just trying to get out of this fight. Going to get walled up here. But now the rotation in from the Lapras. Going to go ahead and hit that Parasong to start things off. And now this is starting to get into some dangerous territory. They happen to hit another one of these, but 16 going down immediately. Another 9 following that up after they farmed up the central area Pokemon. But oh no, they're starting to flip that around. Sekko getting caught up against the wall here. The Sing following that up, and now the damage coming in from the Lapras, just trying to zone them out with the Parasong. And we'll see if that is going to be enough to get the hits. But once again, the speed of the Crustle is going to be another thing that we're going to be looking out for. How are they going to go ahead and play this out?
Okay, here comes another score here, just making sure that the scores are those smaller numbers so they're a lot easier, but it looks like the Crustle finally gonna go down after the wall. Mr. Mime not letting Crustle go anywhere there.
Yeah, good wall off and good use of understanding the map and just forcing them into a corner, making sure that they can't leave, and the team is just there to go ahead and collapse with extra damage.
Okay, but on the top side, Double N has been keeping up the pressure and has been scoring a bit as well. A lot of scoring early game on both ends here.
Yeah, they're just trying to get those stacks up, making sure that they can get that damage straight through. And it looks like it's going to be the X-Scissor coming out of the Crustle as well. Even more scoring going on in the back line here. Down at bottom, that opposite side of Crustle right now is going to go again and get punched with the Flail Axe, trying to survive here, but 2 bites. Not going to be able to survive this time. The team is not there, and now we start seeing Moonlight coming out of Not Ash, and we'll see if they happen to escape with their lives. Here comes the Lapras now, starting to get a little bit more of that damage in. The tank ability and the shell armor are going to allow them to tank a lot of this, but you can't really tank when there's 5 players just running it down right now and just applying that pressure. First, Reggie's just spawned up, and we'll see if they happen to take that as priority.
Yeah, it looks like for Double N, Snorlax, their damage on with the flail was going towards the top path here. It's like a lot of pressure, trying to relieve some of the pressure that Tuga is putting on this top side goal zone here. But because of that, this Registeel going to go to the side of Double N.
Yeah, 2 bites just trying to leave out of here, but you start seeing some of the pressure up at top lane at the moment, as Tugas is just trying to answer back here. Getting bullied out of bottom lane, they happen to break it to go ahead and start things off, but we'll see how they want to go ahead and apply even more of this pressure as we flip back up to top lane.
Ooh, okay, the wall getting selected here, or the block getting selected for Snorlax here. Here comes Slowbro. Wow, okay, the goal zone going down on the side of Double N here. Tugas with that early pressure. The Lapras is going to go down, though. Like you said, very tanky, and you can usually survive quite a bit of damage when there's so many other Pokemon. Even though there's supports and tanks, the damage will eventually come through.
There's the Sing followed by the Starlight Recital to try to keep them up, try to prevent any of this extra damage from coming through. But the Showtime going to go ahead and deal a ton of that damage and going to allow them to go ahead and dunk down here. Close scores right now as Double N has a very narrow lead, but Tuga's at the moment just getting surrounded and collapsed on by Double N. And we were mentioning this at the top of the broadcast. It feels like Tuga's like team composition is more geared towards scoring and taking up as much of the space as possible, but they haven't been able to find that. And as the team fights go, still going towards Double N and the way how they're snowballing into their opponents.
Yeah, Double N's team definitely drafted for a lot of these team fights, the front-to-front team fights, if you will. And I mean, they're just able to group up to get so much value from these scenarios here. And this flail Snorlax feels a lot more impactful in this mid game. I feel like in that game one, it started to feel like it fell off, but the damage feels like it's keeping up here.
Yeah, you start seeing these small scores coming in from Tugas to go ahead and get that straight through, but not Ash trying to deal some of the damage. A fly followed by the Sableye hold. That's going to send two of them back to spawn right at that 4-minute mark, which is ideally when you do want to use it, you will be able to have enough time to get it back. And more of the scores going up in the top lane for Tugas. So a lot of pressure coming in. You start seeing that the score button going straight through, and now even more of the damage followed by the Unite move coming out for the Crustle, but it's not going to be enough. Fully surrounded by 4, uses the Shell Smash to try to get away. The X's are going to go ahead and push 3, but it's still not enough to collapse in on them, as Double N is still winning out on these team fights.
Yeah, and I like that Tugas didn't necessarily force the team fight there. They saw that Double N was going for the objective. They send one member over. Maybe you get the flip, maybe you don't. But at the end of the day, 4 other members of Team Tugas was off somewhere else on the map, accomplishing either getting that experience or scoring. But it seems like Double N able to get another pick here near that central area.
Yeah, and Zealot just trying to grab whatever they can, trying to go invisible at the moment, but they start seeing the entire cavalry of Double N coming straight through and just trying to eat up as much of the map as possible. But once again, the dunks coming through, just trying to even out the score. And this is the power that you have with a character like Sableye, just eating up the space, making sure that the goals are constantly pressured, and making this game super hard for the opposition for Tugas.
Okay, the Regieleki is spawned in on this top path here, and it looks like Double N making their way towards the objective, but so is Tuga's. Full collapse here from Team Tuga, and Snorlax still in that central area trying to catch up here, but the team fight looks like it's starting up here, and the positioning on the side of Double N, but Tugas is getting a bunch of damage in right now. But look at this, Double N just being able to survive everything. This healing is insane. Finally, the Lapras is going down. The Crustle is still trying to deal this damage, but it's just not enough right now. And Double N just seems like they are unstoppable with all of this healing.
Yeah, lots of healing, lots of support, but also just a ton of pressure. And meanwhile, up at top, you have this Regieleki. You saw Snorlax try to score on bottom in the picture-in-picture, but Aleki's going to touch. They're going to go ahead and break this, and Double N's trying to take a massive lead right before this race so that they don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, right now, if you are Double N, you don't even have to start the Ray. You have this lead that you're great swing right before Rayquaza, and that's essentially what you want most of the time, because you don't want to be put in a position where you have to get the Rayquaza, right?
Yes, exactly. You want to just put yourself in a nice little position, get a little bit of experience going your way, and then continue on to score in the back utilizing your Sableye. And that's exactly what they're going to do. You start seeing this double pressure. Even though they are behind, now they are just behind by 100 at the moment, and you start seeing some of these bigger goals, scores going in for the side of Tugas, but not quite enough to catch up. But now they have to take this fight at Ray.
Yeah, and of course, Double N, they just have such a great team fight team. But here comes Tugas right now, and this Rayquaza getting very low here. Who's going to get the secure? It looks like Mr. Mime is able to secure it onto the side of Double N, but can they clean up the team fight? It looks like they can. Right now, Tugas is fleeing, trying to get a reset, trying to get back home.
Yeah, we'll see if this is even enough time. I still think that they have enough time to go ahead and score even more going forward, and that is what they're going to do. They're ahead by a little over 100, but even the small scores coming out from the Sableye at the moment is still not enough for them to go ahead and get that damage. You start seeing this thing, see the Parasong going straight through, trying to deal some of that damage onto the Eldegoss, but they are getting shredded through the damage from the Flail Axe and bringing down the fist onto the entirety of Tuga, and the rest of the team just doesn't know what to do with it. They continue to push on forward, continuing to punch this Lapras, the shell armor, keeping them up, but not for long, as they are going to continue to extend their score, and Double N looking to close out the series.
Yeah, Fantastic stuff. And this Snorlax got out of control real quick. Look at the level 15 on this Snorlax. 30 seconds left in the game here, trying to get a little bit more scoring. And this time, instead of going with the yawn, going with that block there. So I like the utility coming out, but you still have the damage of flail.
Exactly. They're still dealing that damage straight through, and 2 bites trying to get that through, followed with the Crustle move, followed by the Starlight Recital to keep that pressure up. Even more scoring coming out from Double N. Not enough time to go ahead and play that defense, and they are just getting collapsed on here. Tries to get the Sing. The Parasong going to go ahead and clean up one more, but the score is already set in stone here. Double N looking to continue on forward.
The clean 2-0 coming out from Double N. Game 1 felt like more on the side of Tugas, but Double N was able to clutch it up at the very end there. But this game number 2 felt like it was the Double N show the entire time. As you can see here, they just felt like they had the edge in terms of the team fights. And then when it came to scoring, it was going back and forth. But right before the Rayquaza spawned in, that huge swing for Double N on that top path was able to, you know, just give them even more of an edge coming into that last 2-minute mark. And they just went for the Rayquaza. They know they had the damage, and they knew if Tugas tried to contest them, they were just going to win out on that team fight.
Yeah, you see the way how they set up this fight already. A lot of damage coming in from the Lapras, but once again, a lot of sustain coming out from the Clefable on the side of Tugas. But as we are watching these replays, the things that we are going to be looking at the most is just how much pressure Double N is applying as a team. They're moving as a team, moving as a unit, and just making it really tough for Tugas to just get anything going their way.
Yeah, it was very, very tough. And we mentioned the mobility that Crustle and Sableye have on the map in general, but it didn't feel like they were able to score enough, right? And especially when the opposing team forces the Rayquaza fight, that's where it can get really tough. That's where you have to make a lot of tough macro decisions, and Tugas was just not able to get that value that Double N got from these team fights.
Yeah, I do agree. I feel like there should have been a lot more pressure on the side of Tugas in order to apply pressure to the goals and then force them to kind of play from behind in terms of the score, which at the end of the day, it is about that, but it does come down to the way how the team wants to take the fights. They didn't necessarily, like, Tugas' entire game plan should have been to score and break rather than to let Double N like farm up and become great in team fights. Instead just break the goals. Just make them worry about what the score is.
Right. I think the goal was to utilize that mobility, try and split up Double N, but I think Double N played around that very well. They grouped up efficiently, and when they did see scoring on the side, most of the time they just let it go, and they're able to make value elsewhere, right? Like, okay, you're going to go ahead and score a little here, a little there, but we're going to pick up this objective. We're going to pick up this experience, and you just saw how crazy the Flaillax got towards the end there. This Snorlax was doing so much damage. It was level 15 before the game ended. Quite ridiculous. It may have been actually gotten to level 16 there at the end.
Yeah, and you just start seeing how much pressure these two teams go. You know, you have the support Eldegoss, but also just dealing damage from just being a ranged character in the backline as well. So Eldegoss kind of being that one backline like mage almost character that's just going in the backline, chipping away, and just making it really tough for Tugas to get anything going. But that is it for our first game, Double N versus Tugas, first of our semifinals to start things off. But yeah, is there any closing notes that you have for this, Charles?
Flailllax, that's where the damage is. We talked earlier on the broadcast, right? Where will the damage come from? All these tanks, all these supports. Well, with Hoopa being banned probably most of the time, I would not be surprised if Hoopa is banned this entire tournament just because of how the amount of damage plus utility you get with Hoopa is just insane. So I would not be surprised if we don't even get to see Hoopa because of the bans. But the Flailllax, I was impressed. There was a lot of damage coming on the side of that Flail Snorlax, and it felt like it was enough to break through some of this, a lot of tanking and healing coming out from a lot of these teams.
Yeah, really excited to go ahead and see what the other teams happen to bring on. But when we come back, we will be bringing you guys the opposite side of the bracket with the other semifinals match. So don't go anywhere. Unite Battle Hub and Anniversary Series will continue right after this.
Welcome back to Unite Battle Hub. Of course, the anniversary edition, and we're having a good time. We got some special rules, only tanks, only supports. Draku, how'd you feel about that last set?
It was really interesting. I really like one of the teams really going for that kind of death ball combo. And I think in that first game, they were literally sitting on a tier 2 pad for something like 45 seconds to a minute, just trying to siege that goal zone. And I think, that's where like the really hype moments come, when a team just like, sits on the goal zone and tries to apply as much pressure as possible. Unfortunately, they did go down in that team fight, but it's really cool to see a long extended team fight as we did there.
Yeah, absolutely. Lapras and Clefairy will seem like a very strong duo. You just get to group up, do all of that AoE damage. We saw the Perish Song doing work as well. Kanashi, how do you feel about the Flail, Snorlax, and some of these other damage output Pokemon that we're seeing kind of replace these other Pokemon that we usually see in the damage slot?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I know that, Flailolax has been doing quite a bit of damage, just being able to run and just Falcon Punch somebody into the ground. I'm just excited to see what other combinations of damage we could happen to find in this plethora of Pokemon that we haven't seen yet. Like we were mentioning, obviously Crustle didn't get the spotlight that we were looking at, but hopefully we happen to see, I think, the only 2 Pokemon that are still, or 3. There's only 3 that haven't been picked yet. So it's Comfey, Goodra, and Mamoswine are the 3 that I think are still on the table that we haven't seen yet. So I'm excited to see if they have to go with more of a damage Mamo. Same thing with the Goodra. And if Comfey happens to be another support option that the teams want to go for. But yeah, we'll go ahead and see how this happens to play out.
All right, well, best of luck, and I hope all of the rest of the Pokemon you guys want to see get drafted, and I'm going to kick it off to you guys.
All right, we got a Lapper's ban. This is definitely pretty typical in both the competitive sense and also in the tournament that we have here today. Lapper's just having one of the highest win rates across competitive. I believe in NAIC it had something like a 62% win rate, which is pretty substantial for a tournament of that caliber.
Yeah, so they're going to go ahead and get rid of that instantly, but that just left the door wide open for Hoopa, and that's exactly what they're going to go ahead and pick up. Now we see the Slowbro Clefable is looking like a 1-2 typical pickup. There's that Gudra that we were missing.
Yeah.
That is going to be the pickup this time, utilizing that Slick Spoon for extra damage as well. So looking forward to the Tanky Gengar and seeing hopefully if they happen to go with that build, if that is the way how they want to go ahead and play this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to be going with that Muddy Water build. You know, typically Gudra, you want to get that self-sustain and the recovery out of the Dragon Pulse, but since you have so much recovery on your side of the field in the form of the Hoopa, and potentially, yeah, this Blissey that's going to be picked out as well, that Gudra is most likely going to be the heavy, pun intended, damage dealer on the side of Vivid Apex.
Yeah, so that is going to be the play here. We'll see what the last pick is going to be coming out of Warus at the moment. Is it the Mamo? Is it going to be to close out the rest of the composition? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So with this next one, they happen to use every single defender and supporter that we have in the game. We've seen them happen to get played out here. And now it's just a matter of how does the team want to build and set up their Pokemon. I feel like that is going to be half of the question, half of the battle, but yeah, looking forward to it.
I think one character that I'm kind of interested to see how they fit into their team comp is on the side of Waros Desportivo. That is going to be that Comfey, right? You know, typically Comfey, you want a character that can really carry in terms of damage and also with the levels as well. And I feel like Clefable just kind of fits that role perfectly because looking at these characters, they're going to want to sit together with that Mamoswine, with that Mr. Mime in the front as well. So I'm curious to see who the Comfey goes on. I mean, you have a lot of options, but maybe Clefable kind of just fills that role even better than a Comfey does.
Yeah, and I'm trying to like mentally like figure out the mental image of this. If it happens to go on the Mamoswine, imagine if it goes Grass Knot to hold people in place instead. Just kind of like a teeing them up to knock them down kind of deal for the Mamoswine. So that might be an option for the Comfey, but also once again, Magical Leaf is still a great ability as well. So we'll see what the teams want to do, how they want to go ahead and build around the rest of their team, and how it's going to play out as we're starting to load into our semifinal match between Vivid Apex and Walrus Deportivo in our second match here for today.
All right, they're going to go ahead and send the Greedent into the jungle. Typically not a character you see on your side of the jungle here. Usually one of the invading Pokemon. The opposing side looks like we have that Mamoswine in the bot lane, and looks like, oh, yeah, we're going to grab this Hoopa with that red buff as well. It's a pretty typical strategy with a fast, basic attack carry Mon-like Hoopa now heading up into the top lane.
Yep, so they happen to just get a little bit of the buff. They want that slow for the hits, just to go ahead and slow up the rest of the comp here, but we'll see how the teams want to play this. Once again, Walrus Deportivo just trying to get those stacks in and applying pressure to this open goal at the moment.
All right, Hoopa trying their best here to try to stop some of these stacks up into the top lane. Looks like Comfey is going to be able to grab 2 stacks for themselves before retreating back to their side of the map here. Sliggoo is on the field now, hitting that level 5 evolution for that Gudra, heading down into the bottom lane. We do have the jungle Greedent down the bottom as well. It looks like they are going to be using that Stuffed Cheeks ability down in the bottom lane.
Yep, just trying to eat up however much they can, get those stacks up and running, and continue on with this pressure. But Phantom getting knocked out early, gonna now evolve into Trevenant. So you start seeing the pressure going in onto this front goal, but can't say the same about top lane at the moment, as Walrus Deportivo is starting to gang up on the rest of the team here, and we'll see if that happens to help them out here.
Yeah, it's a good pick on the Mime there, not able to get any more points going into that top tier goal as well. Here we do have some more invasions coming on here as the Trevenant and the Greedent head into the jungle here. It looks like maybe the Slowbro may have gotten that blue buff there, so able to get that defend there, and it looks like they're in a kind of a sticky situation here, but again, that mobility from the Greedent with that Stuffed Cheeks as well. Woodhammer finds 2, able to get a KO onto the Clefable, and now trying to siege this goal in the bot lane. Small scores, but mostly just for stacks.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing here, just trying to get the sack straight through. And now the Sliggoo happening to show up here. Now it's going to be dealing some of that damage. But the thing to look out for right now, look at this Mammoth Swine already level 8. The Palace Swine starting to get into their levels quite quickly, and that may be dangerous for them if they get Mammoth Mash super early. But Sub-Zero dropping dangerously low. Once again, the Hoopa Portal going to go ahead and bail out the Trevenant to start things off, but now the teams are starting to rotate around, trying to figure out where they want to go, especially moving into this 7-minute mark here.
Greedent finally getting access to that second move. We do see the Stuffed Cheeks and the Bullet Seed on the side of the Greedent. Again, this is more of ability to, for extended team fights as well. But one thing that I'm really curious to think about for both of these teams is where's the Secure going to come from? Typically Greedent has that Belch ability to get really strong Secures, but because it's going with that Bullet Seed, where is that going to come from on the side of Vivid Apex?
Yeah, and now you start seeing this 2v1. They do have the Confate with them, and a little bit of that extra damage coming out from the magical leaves is going to go ahead and help them secure it. Now they have that Mammoth Swine as well. Level 9, going to be able to slow up the scoring on the goal. It's already down to 7, but just trying to get whatever pressure they can as Sub-Zero looking to hold and freeze down the rest of this team here. They're getting chipped away, trying to get the healing coming out from the Clefable. Gravity to slow things up. Huge hit onto 3, but is it enough? Sub-Zero dangerously low already, trying to stay sustained as the Moonlight is going to come in to save them up here. Literally dangerous amounts of HP, trying to get that recovery and return back to the fight. Sub-Zero charging straight in, gonna use that Mammoth Mash, gonna get a little bit of extra HP from the Buddy Barrier, and now they're gonna continue on forward. They secure it down with the Clefable, and now the rest of the team is just gonna apply this pressure, take away as much space as possible. Even more of the Wood Hammer, followed by the Bullet Seed, followed by the Flowery Field forever. Go ahead and try to keep the rest of the team alive here for Walrus Deportivo, and now the team fight still continuing on forward. Deportivo still continuing on with the damage and keeping them off of the point for as long as they can. They're going to go ahead and take down the Hoopa, so no more teleporting into the space here. But the Clefable going to be able to run away with 1 HP, trying to possibly return, maybe even keep and sustain the rest of the team, utilizing the Moonlight for a little bit. But now, Wood Hammer, trying to get that down. Can they close that out? The Egg Bomb right on top, still 1 HP, followed by the Pain Split. Going to be able to save themselves, utilizing that Moonlight to keep them up, but it's not going to be enough. You start seeing the push accidentally pushes them into their own team. Sub-Zero in danger, going to be able to grab double of the berries, citrus berries, and the gold does go down. So overall, a very long and drawn out fight, but Walrus Deportivo taking the main objective, but Vivid Apex happening to take the first goal.
Yeah, like we were saying, these long and extended fights, super exciting. I really thought Warles had it there in the bottom lane, able to get the objective and looking really healthy, especially with that Moonlight. But unfortunately, they'd lose a couple of their team members, then losing their bottom tier goal here. Now, it looks like Vivid Apex has really good positioning here on to the Reggie-Alecki. Mr. Mime with the comfy pocket as well, just trying to get some space, get some vision for the team. Reggie-Alecki is going to go ahead and reset into the top lane, and we might have another team fight coming up here, as we do have the bottom Reggie spawning in the next few seconds as well. Waros having a really strong positioning now in the top lane. The Hoopa hyperspace hole is going to send the Trevenant back home before they re-engage as well here. Here comes the Hoopa Unbound to bring the rest of the team up to the top lane. There is a KO. The Clefable, a big source of healing, is down, and it looks like a lot of health is going to be taken off from Waros as well. Here comes Vivid. Let's see if they can continue to apply pressure. They're going to back off to grab this Reggie-Alecki, and still sitting at about 60%. This is the one thing that this struggles in, is taking these objectives. It's just going to take a long time, and that's where these massive, long out, drawn team fights. Reggie-Alecki sitting at about 30% now. Gravity is on the field. The stomps are coming in, and the Greedent able to pick it up with the Bullet Seed. Now going over to the right side of the map. Let's see if they decide to push this in.
Yeah, as you start seeing the team fight still continuing on forward here, as Vivid Apex is going to create just enough space for them to go ahead and dunk in here, looking for whoever has the most, trying to do some math here. They're going to go ahead and let the 30 over dunk get down there, but meanwhile down at bottom, Reggie Rock is secured by Walrus at the moment. We don't know if they want to go ahead and push on forward, but overall, score is tied. Teams are close in experience, and overall a great, long and drawn out extended fight continuing on forward.
there's an extended team fight here in the jungle now. Mammoth Smash is going to find nobody. Oh, it actually picks up one in the last hit there. Not much CC applied to the team, though. Trevenant sitting at about 10% is going to sit. I think it's on the slow beam, though. The slow beam is actually going to hold the Trevenant in place, unable to get back home through the hyperspace hole here. And now Vivid Apex is kind of in a weird position in the middle of their jungle, but they are able to pick up a couple of KOs. They get the slow bro, a 2-for-1 with the Comfey attached to it as well, and it looks like they're going to go ahead and retreat back to their side of the map as they do recognize there is a ton of farm on the field. But while they're doing this, let's go and take a look at the field state. 2 level 12s on the side of Vivid Apex. Waros has that level 13 Mamoswine that has continually had this level lead throughout the match.
Yeah, and now the rest of the team is starting to catch up as well, and especially heading into Raid, this is going to be a really interesting, once again, very drawn-out fight, just because of the sheer numbers of sheer amount of HP that both these teams boast. So we'll see if that plays into this final stretch, and if they happen to take a different form of approach as they slowly get ready for this final fight. We see our cameraman getting closer to the goal. You start seeing the Gudra. The Gudra's kind of left alone here. They might have it to score in the back. They're starting to wind it up. Same thing with the Blissey down at bottom. We'll see if one gets stopped. Yes, the Skull's going to go ahead and stop one, but not the bottom one. So the 80's going to go straight through for the Blissey as we start seeing the rest of the team starting to get ready for this Ray fight.
Yeah, Blissey catching a really lucky break there. It was exactly even, 193 to 193, but with that Blissey score, here comes the Berry Belly Bomb coming out of the green as well. The Bullet Seed working on the Clefable. Clefable's going to be chipped away and sent back to the Pokemon Center here. Flowery Fields forever. Hoopa is unbound. 2 KOs on the side of Waros here. Let's see if this Mammoth can stay alive here. Still sitting at about 50%. Comfey onto the Slowbro. Lots of pressure going into the Slowbro, but the Comfey on overdrive, keeping them alive as well. They just can't take down the bro when it has this belt attached to them, and it looks like we're gonna go for another refight, but the Mamoswine down for a huge 30-second KO timer.
Yeah, that's gonna be a huge hindrance to Waros Deportivo, not having a crazy amount of damage to go ahead and follow this up, but it doesn't look like it's stopping them from continuing on forward. They want to start this Ray. 45 seconds left on the clock. We start seeing likes starting to get into the back here. There's a wood hammer to line them up. Some of the damage, Showtime right on top of them as well, trying to deal some of that damage, in the shred going towards the way of Vivid Apex, and they are going to go ahead and continue on forward, marching in some of these points. They happen to continue to score here.
Yeah, Greedon once again getting another objective with that Bullet Seed. Kind of talking about earlier in the match, where is that confirming smiting ability going to come from? And lo and behold, Greedon, usually having that belch ability to get these confirmed, is able to get 2 50-50 toss-ups with the Bullet Seed. And I think that's where the difference maker was. Just sometimes you get a little bit lucky with your flips.
Yeah, and they just had consistent damage. They had constant pressure going in, and then also the split score to go ahead and start things off in the final stretch between the Blissey and the Gudra really made it tough for the side of Waros Deportivo to really figure out which side they wanted to play and who they wanted to stop. And once that goal went in, you knew that they felt pressure from going into the Ray fight. They understood that they had to, it was on them to go ahead and secure and win the fight. So definitely a tougher battle, but overall, a lot of the damage coming straight through. We'll go ahead and hop into some of these replays. Once again, early game, the Mamoswine did really well to just deal some of the damage, but still not enough to go ahead and clean up the backline and actually win them and secure down this last bit of the fight here.
Yeah, I gotta say though, this Clefable with that Moonlight definitely kicking it into overdrive, keeping their team nice and healthy. I'm pretty sure I saw this Mamoswine less than 25%. For, like right here, the Clefable doing a really good job of trying to keep themselves alive, retreating back to the tier 1 goal just to re-engage and help its team stay alive in these long drawn-out team fights. And this is kind of where it gets a little iffy here as the Clefable does go down, but you know, Clefable, one of those characters that is able to keep your team back into the fight with its AoE healing.
Yeah, and this is one of the big sustained Pokemon that we were expecting to see throughout this entire match. It's being able to stay with the team, keep consistent healing, keep consistent sustain, and then try to find the damage later on. But Overall, just a crazy amount of pressure and a lot of goal taking coming out from this Gradient and the side of Vivid Apexes.
Yeah, I gotta say, Waros really did a very fantastic job at keeping in the fight for a very long time, despite losing this game here. And I really think that Vivid Apex really just got the better hand of some of these flips here with the green on the bullet seed. But I think, going into the next game, if you're Waros, you are down 1-0 in this next game. I don't think you really need to change much other than maybe being a little more communicative during these when the objectives are getting down to really low HP.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like both teams played very, very well with the compositions that they had. It's just a little bit of micro adjustments that I would say moving into game number 2 that would help Walrus Deportivo even up the scoreline, or Vivid Apex continuing on forward. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these teams draft once again. We've seen every Pokemon played, and now it's just a matter of them kind of finding this meta with the few restrictions that we did place on them. So yeah, it's going to be interesting once again. Walrus Deportivo as they face off against Vivid Apexes. Waiting on game number 2, best of 3 matches here today. Defender supports only, no Umbreon, no Blastoise.
What do you think? I mean, we have a little bit of time here before the next game. What do you think would happen if we added the Umbreon and the Blastoise? Despite any bugs to them.
I for sure think that they would be first picked or first banned. I think that Blastoise would just be the go-to damage dealer if you happen to win that secure. Water Spout Rapid Spin is still a great 1-2 combo, and teams will definitely be using that. So if it was on the table, they would be having those, and then Umbreon is just ridiculous in terms of sustain.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of glad that we don't have that one in there, but all the other ones, it's a lot of fun to see these fights obviously go on for a ridiculously long amount of time, but also being able to find out where the heavy hitters are in those fights are really important as well.
I think the one thing, why Umbreon is such a strong character in competitive and also on the ladder as well, is that a lot of people like to play very attack damage heavy characters. They like to play ADCs like Greninja, Cinderace, things like that, where foul play really goes into overdrive into those characters that have a lot of high attack damage. But in this kind of rule set, I don't know if that utility gets its same type of value, because typically defender supporters, they don't have that type of attack power unless they are fully stacked and running attack items as well. So obviously this is all speculation because Umbreon isn't available to be selected in this tournament, but maybe Umbreon might not have as much utility as we think it does, because you don't have that kind of a niche ability that comes with foul play.
Exactly. Just being able to understand the mechanics of a move as well. Foul play once again plays off of the attack stats. So with defenders and supports, I don't think it would be as broken, but I wonder if teams would try to find a different move set that may work for this kind of format, because once again, this is not a normal format. We have no attackers, no speedsters, no all-rounders. So it's just a bunch of just people trying to hit each other with squeaky hammers. It will eventually happen, but the damage is not there, but they can take it. But probably after punch 999, one of them will drop. So that is exactly what we're looking at here. Is just a bunch of squishies running at each other, just
squeaky hammers and a titanium shield is what
exactly
is what
this is the kind of war that we signed up for.
So we're heading out into the second game here. Obviously, this is a best of 3 tournament, a single elimination tournament. So whoever wins this one is going to be facing off in the grand finals in the next set here. We're going to be heading off into the draft of the second game of semifinal number 2. Let's see who they decide. Lapras, again, was banned outright from both teams in the last game, and it looks like they might be doing something different here. Hoopa, on the side of Vivid, they're going to be taking that one off of Waros here. Obviously, Hoopa has been one of those characters that's been banned outright just because of its ability to, its macro decision making that you need to respect if Hoopa is on the field. And we also have Slowbro being banned out as well on the side of Waros. So Lapras is now on the field. Yeah,
so Lapras is probably going to be first pick here for Sub-Zero. open things up as we're waiting on the pick phase here. But yeah, this is looking like some typical UCS bans as we're going through here. We'll see what they happen to pick up here, if they happen to pick at all. Oh, that looks like a lag out potentially. That's not a defender or support.
That's a very squishy defender that we got going on here.
So
maybe they're gonna attach a focus band, a buddy barrier, and maybe who knows? Maybe an attack weight, not attack weight, an assault vest.
Yeah. So we are getting word that there is a the draft bug where you would hover over something, it wouldn't let you select it, and so it just locks in whatever. So that is exactly what's going down. They're going to go ahead and hit the redraft, but once again, the Slowbro and the Hoopa are going to be banned. Those are the two that were already made before the actual picks were made. So we'll see what the Pokemon happen to go ahead and play out here. So Draku, is there any specific defender or support build that you want to see in this game? Especially with the restrictions that we have, is there any Pokemon that most people probably won't see but are going to go ahead and take a shot at here?
I think I'm gonna give a shout out to Draku of year one. There is a supporter slash quote unquote defender that I played a ton of, and that was Wigglytuff. I played a ton of rollout Wigglytuff. I think like the adrenaline and the spike in serotonin that you get from like locking someone in a hallway with rollout is just like such a fun thing to think about. And you know, you don't typically see rollout nowadays. I think rollout was definitely a build that you saw when score comp was a huge thing. I know the Japanese meta played a lot around, you know, rollout Wiggly and score shield, but unfortunately score shield got the huge nerf, and then you don't really see it as much anymore. So obviously in this type of rule set, like CC is obviously king, right? Defenders, supporters, they apply a ton of pressure in the form of crowd control. And when you think of Wigglytuff, what is the best form of crowd control? One of it is its passive ability, which is Cute Charm, and then second is Sing. So typically, you're probably not going to see a rollout Wiggly unless they are going with a score comp. And I mean, we've seen score comp earlier today with one of the teams going with a Crustle, a Sableye, and I think also a Wigglytuff as well, if I'm not mistaken. But if there's to answer your question, if there's a moveset I really want to see, it's going to be specifically a rollout Wigglytuff. What do you think?
Rollout Wiggly. We have yet to see it on Thea Sky Ruins. I don't think that I've seen a lot of it being played, because I remember Remote Stadium have a lot more like flush walls that you could bounce things off of. I do want to see a rollout Wiggly. I feel like that's on the itinerary. I would also give a shout out to Inder or Indie Bear's Eldegoss, the original, what they used to call the Eldeglock. That was just pure attack damage, jungling Eldegoss, and it would just come into lane at level 5 and just start shredding people. But yeah, we'll see if that happens to be the case as we are slowly starting to get into this match, and if it happens to be the case, what will we see heading into it? But originally, I think the play was like that with Rapid Fire, Scarf, Muscle Band, and Float Stone to just get into the fights quick, shred through, and just continue on forward. But yeah, I'm looking forward to how these two teams want to go ahead and face off, figure out their draft, and find the damage and where it's going to come from.
Yeah, Eldegoss by itself, like even without a red buff, is something to... It's scary sometimes, you know, the slowing effect that you get with its passive ability, and then on top of that you get the red buff too. It's like it's applying CC just to a basic attack, and that idea is very powerful. That ability to do that is very powerful.
Yeah, and we'll see if they happen to go with the chase ability as well. Like, I know Pollen Puff is the go-to to help your team with sustain, but imagine trying to run away and a Leaf Tornado comes up right behind you. That is also an option. So haven't seen that all day either, but we'll see if that happens to be the case moving forward. Once again, we're waiting on the redraft because of the glitch at the moment. But once again, supports and defenders only. Umbreon and Blastoise are off the table. But we will be taking a peek at what other options there are on the table. I think Clefable so far has been a really good pick. A lot of teams utilizing not only Follow Me and Gravity, but mostly the Moonlight just to sustain the team's fights, have been really, really big for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in that last game, Clefable just able to sustain your entire team with, just literally a walking goal zone in terms of the healing aspect of it. And, if you're able to get some of those stacks up, I've definitely seen like a fully stacked Clefable like applying as much healing as like standing on a tier 2 pad. That's just
Yeah.
like how much healing that you can get from this one character. And if your entire team is really benefiting off of this, like I would say it's probably the supreme support healer, like in this game type specifically, because of its ability to heal the entire team. Whereas, a character like Blissey or a character like Comfey can only do it to one character at a time. Clefable can do that, but with everybody.
Yeah, and it really does incentivize team play and just being able to like chill together, make sure that you guys get your healing all together. And once again, shout out to Unite DB that I have open, not on my other side of the screen here, but Rescue Hood has been like another really big player in this entire setup as well. If you happen to see a lot of teams just continuing on with the sustain and the healing, it's because of stuff like Rescue Hood and being able to keep them alive. So okay, so Walrus Deportivo, once again, we're gonna go ahead and see they don't have the glitch once again, so they're gonna go ahead and lock in a Mr. Mime to be the first pick. So looking for a little bit of damage and a little bit more crowd control utilizing those barriers.
Yeah, Barrier Mime is definitely a character that, has picked up some popularity recently. When Thea Sky Ruins was first dropped, it was all about power swap and psychic. That was just a very oppressive moveset that you have here. But let's see what Mime decides to do here. It looks like they might be going for more of a confusion build if Sub-Zero is going to be the player that has it. It does have the Slip Spoon and also the choice specs as well, as we do see Gudra and Lapras being picked up once again here. Really strong form of damage and really good sustain as well from those two characters specifically.
Yeah, and once again, the double curly crew kind of build that we have here. Gudra, we haven't seen them apply a ton of pressure, but this time going to be paired up with the Comfey. That is going to be another thing to keep in mind as well. Just two tanky defenders running at you, tough to close in on them if they pick Magical Leaf. And being able to have the spot healing coming out from the Blissey is going to be really helpful as well. Meanwhile, Vivid Apex looking to close out their lineup with the Snorlax. We'll see if this is going to be the Flail Lax that we've seen in the past, or if they are going to be playing this more in a defender role as well.
Yeah, I think it looks like they're going to go ahead and switch up their teams there. I was a little bit excited because Q had on the Eldegoss, I had a Muscle Band and a Rapid Fire Scarf, and who's now the Clefable player, they had once again the Muscle Band and the Rapid Fire Scarves too. That would be really cool to see two characters that have the high ADC. But it looks like this Eldegoss might be going with more attack-based damage. Obviously, they do have the XP share attached to them as well, but that might be your dream come true here, as Trobus might be having an ADC Eldegoss coming in here.
Yeah, it is one of those Pokemon that when you start seeing them chip away, you're like, oh, this doesn't hurt too much, and then you start seeing like 3 or 4 of them come at you, and they're like, that's a little too much. So I'm excited to see if that is going to be the play, if that's going to be the way how they want to play this out. And yeah, if that is going to be the main source of damage. I know once again, Eldegoss being one of the few Pokemon in this entire draft that has that kind of range. So we'll see if they utilize that range in order to help out the team. Obviously, get the slow on the third hit. It's going to be kind of crazy to see how these teams are going to go ahead and take on their game number 2 in their semifinals match here.
Yeah, once again, this is a best of 3 set, and it's also a single elimination. Whoever, if Vivid Apex is able to pull this one out, they are going to be moving on to the grand finals. And unfortunately, if Waros does not win this, they are going to be going home. As we get into the second game, everybody, it looks like we have the Gudra heading into the jungle in the bot lane. We do have the supporters next to their defenders, both of them supporting the XP share. The Comfey and the Mime, once again, as we've seen in the last game, up into the top lane. Eldegoss, like we were saying before, grabbing that red buff before they head back into the lane.
Yeah, look at these quick scores coming in from both of them. The Comfey also getting their 4 in. It's apply some of that pressure, but Trobus, as stated earlier, getting in some of that chip damage. You see how quickly they're firing away here. on this Gossifleur to go ahead and start things off. Even though they might not have gotten the last hit secure, just being able to chip away at their opponent relatively quickly is going to help them out. They're starting to collapse in here. You start seeing a little bit of that damage coming straight through for Warros Deportivo. The rest trying to go ahead and hold them into place with a flail axe, ready to go. Can they get the last hit? Yes, they can. Falcon Punch going straight into them as Likes is trying to deal even more of the damage. This time, Vine Whip going to go ahead and get that, and Trobos is now in trouble as they're going to go ahead and get brought down. And Sub-Zero and the crew ready to go ahead and dunk in as much as they possibly can. Just a really well rotation play coming out from the Sliggoo.
Yeah, the jungle goo coming up to the top lane, able to get a sweep here. As we do see the Greedent heading down into the bottom lane, and once again have that stuffed cheeks ability in that move slot. Number one getting even more sustained with the berries that it throws out there. Smaller team fight here. Blissey struggling to get back to his goal zone, able to grab a Citrus Berry. Looks at the Woodhammer, able to grab both of the characters here, trying to apply some pressure. Going the other way here. Blissey unfortunately does go down here, leaving this Lapras all by itself. Let's see if they do have enough damage to continue to siege this goal zone, grabbing that one AO so they don't continue to stack. But Lapras still sitting at about 5%, is going to be taken down by an auto, and then they get some scores going in.
Oh man, Sub-Zero is getting chased down by everyone. No, Sub-Zero surviving, just staying right outside of the bullet seed range. It's going to be able to escape out here. Now they're going to change their attention onto Mr. Mime if that happens to be the case. But no, they're going to go in for a jungle invade instead as they start seeing Q1 trying to chase down the egg, trying to scramble this. Instead, they're just going to crack it over the head, utilizing that wood hammer for the range. Going to go ahead and use the follow me, trying to drag them back a little bit if they happen to do so. But the Lapras just trying to get a couple more levels going their way, but Vivid Apex showing that their teamwork and their damage is starting to stack up a little bit here.
Yeah, this Blissey struggling to get that level 4 evolution, quite literally just getting cooked in the bottom lane here as Mr. Mime tries to hold off a defend on this this offense in the jungle here. It looks like Mr. Mime is going to be forced to go back into his tier 1 goal, and once again that Moonlight keeping that Trevenant nice and healthy. We do have the Sliggoo evolving into the Goodra at level 8, and we have a fully fledged defender on their side as well. Level 8, potentially level 9 coming up pretty soon here, but it looks like Vivid Apex right now, they have a really strong presence in the bottom lane with 4 of their team members trying to siege this goal zone.
Yeah, they're trying to go ahead and take this Reggie as well. They understand that the Parish Song is not going to be enough to go ahead and deal this through, but now the rest of Warros Deportivo starting to collapse in here. Woodhammer over the top to try to bring down this Lapras. Can they do it? Yes, they can. The Parish Song is not there in time as Q1 starting to get pushed around, and they are brought down by the Mr. Mime and the crew. They're still continuing to look for even more. Registeel down to half HP at the moment. Follow me, trying to hold him down. The amount of bullet seeds getting pushed into Sub-Zero at the moment has got nothing to do with it. They happen to call up the rain, and it's going to allow them to sustain themselves throughout this fight. And now Bullet Seed trying to chip away. No, the Goodra is going to be able to secure it down, and that little bit of attack damage is going to help them secure the fight and continue on forward. You start seeing them trying to do a little bit of quick math as they're continuing on through here. Now the rest of the team is here. The dunk's through. And now they're going to try to go ahead and continue on with this fight.
All right, Warros showing some life here in the second game, able to get this objective in the bot lane and also break the top lane T1 as well here. Kind of a smaller skirmish here. Looks like these Trevenant forced to use that X speed. Woodhammer finding a few, able to get a KO onto the Goodra, so a good chunk of experience, but the Parish Song is going to sing that song of doom and send the Trevenant back to the forest here, as we do see a fly coming out of the Clefable with that metronome, a Unite move as well here, trying to retreat back to their side. A Berry Belly Bomb going into the pile up here. The Bullet Seed able to get the KO there, and now they have some room to get some scores onto this goal zone. That is a 22 over onto the bottom T1, 175 to 115 in favor of Warros, but Warros able to get the Regieleki up into the top lane, and the Snorlax now has to deal with it.
Yeah, they are still continuing on with that pressure, trying to take away a lot of the goal zone and pressure in the central area. Now they have troubles. They trying to go ahead and bring them out of here if they happen to get it. No, trying to yoink them out of the Moonlight as well. We'll see if that is the case as X Torreno trying to go ahead and hold down this top lane. See if that is enough. Sub-Zero versus 2 still going to be able to bring down 2, and now is looking for even more. Brings back the worst time, and this is the worst time to be in right now. They're continuing on forward. You start seeing the power nap trying to go on, and now the rest of Warrior Deportivo just beating up on the sleeping person in the middle of the map, and now they're looking for even more. They're going to go for that Revenant that happens to even know that they're coming. Here comes 4. The collapse in onto Q1 at the moment. The pain split's going to be able to keep them alive as they're starting to rotate down here for this Red Rock.
Red Rock is now on the field here. Kuja's going to take a little bit of damage here. Here comes the Lapras Express. It's going to be hitting some walls, unfortunately, crashing into that pile up there. And it looks like Regirock still sitting at about 10% here. Who's going to be able to get this? It looks like the Snorlax was able to get that there. It looks like they got it with an auto as well, but there's still a huge pile up here in the center. And it looks like a couple of characters are going down on the side of Waros as Vivid was able to get that objective. I think maybe that team fight would have gone in the way of Waros, but unfortunately Vivid getting that objective in the bot lane, increasing their defense even further with that Regirock applied to them, and now Mr. Mime is trying to get back home.
Yeah, we'll see if it happens to be which Spider-Man movie is. Is it No Way Home, On the Way Home? I don't know which home, but they're starting to head back here. Sub-Zero trying to go ahead and point one out, trying to yoink that Fable back. They happen to get a couple of the hits through, but the Parasong is not going to be there. They are still collapsing on here. They get one at least, and now they're looking at even more of the Moonlight, trying to keep them sustained, but there's a Parasong once again, dropping them below the threshold and getting that damage straight through. So a lot of the scores coming in from Warrior Deportivo, doing their work early, and now trying to maybe even apply more pressure with this Regieleki up the top.
Death balling up to the top lane as well. There is a Regieleki on the field. Obviously, this is not going to be as advantageous because the other team has a tier 2 goal, but anything helps. In a game as close as this, Regieleki sitting at about 25% here. Vivid Apex trying to get back in here, but it looks like the Gudra able to get the confirmation. But once again, as we've seen in the last team fight, a huge fight here. It looks like the Cotton Unite move there going into the pileup as well. The Lapras is down. The Snorlax is down as well. The Gudra also getting KO'd as well. Still another long and extended team fight here in this. The Regieleki has been taken down somehow to about 5% HP. It's literally collateral damage in this last team fight. And Mr. Mime, once again, the only one standing because it has that comfy pocket. And now Vivid has an opportunity to get a huge score onto the T1, 74 points. That is going to bring the scores to parity, 224 to 215. Vivid Apex has a small lead. Rayquaza has descended. Waros has to get this in order to stay alive in this tourney.
Yeah, and it is all riding on this, but we start seeing the way how they want to play this out. They're splitting up a little bit, trying to find a good engagement and the time to go. Bullet Seed being committed here. As Vivid Apex is just trying to hang on to their slight lead that they have, but Sub-Zero, meanwhile, taking a one-on-one up against Q1, and now the Berry Belly Flop trying to go ahead and answer back. Phantom Force right on top for extra damage, and now Sub-Zero dropping dangerously low. They're trying to use the Showtime to get a little bit of that damage with the Wood Hammer. Gonna go ahead and line them up. Even more of the team is coming in Moonlight, keeping them sustained and topped off in this entire fight. Even more damage going on top of the Lapras, not enough to keep them up, and now you start seeing the rest of the team trying to stay alive here, and Vivid Apex starting to chip away here as they know that they have the man advantage right now. They're going to go ahead and head up to top, trying to score as much as they can as El Toreno being the poor egg, just trying to slap a couple of these people away from here. Do they have the time? The scores are going back and forth. Only a little bit of a lead here, just a little below 70 by 1. I'm not going to say the number because it's funny as they continue on forward. Sub-Zero getting a little bit of help coming in from the Bliss assistance going right on top of them as you see 5 of them here. But meanwhile, all they're doing is dragging them away. Another 50 bomb going into the bottom lane. That's going to be 100 scores. They happen to get that Rayquaza down to a quarter. Who's going to get it? It happens to be Vivid Apex. They're going to continue on with their lead. Not enough of a secure for Warrior Deportivo, and Vivid Apex with 10 seconds left are going to go ahead and continue to score and finally close out this match.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Kanashi, but that is 2 Rayquazas going over to a Bullet Seed Greedent on the side of Vivid Apex. That was 2 confirms going over to the Squirrel, not even using the best confirming ability that this character has in the form of Belch, but still able to get the confirmation. Nonetheless, a really close game. I mean, both of these games were really close. I mean, they go into the final stretch. I believe in game 1, they had exactly the same score, and the same thing here was less than 10-point score, and it was really just sometimes the luck of the draw here, and Vivid Apex able to get the coin flip on some of these objectives.
I feel like Vivid Apex happened to take the fight a little earlier and really take it to Warus Deportivo. You saw Sub-Zero, obviously like a ton of damage on their side, but the Sub-Zero was trying to take a fight up at top to start things off onto Q1, but having the ability to rotate over and sustain the entire team, just seeing not only the Berry belly flop immediately go on top, having more of a presence there, they happen to find Warus Deportivo in 1v1 situations and picking them off in that space, happening to pressure goals instead of really helped them out throughout this fight.
All right, we're gonna head on to some of the replays here before we head on to the grand final of the day here. This is one of the first big engagements in the top lane as the swabs spawn onto the field, and the Gudra, the jungle goo, able to get a couple of KOs as well here. And here is one of the first sieges on the side of Vivid Apex going the other way here, able to get. Actually, no, the objectives are still on the field here. And this is what we see in this tournament. There's these long, drawn-out team fights in the middle of a goal zone. You know, with that Clefable and with that Eldegoss keeping your team healthy, you're able to stay in there for such a long period of time.
Exactly. The Moonlight has been one of the biggest pickups throughout this tournament so far. Just being able to sustain your entire team throughout these fights really helped them out. You saw the chip damage coming in from there, and that helped them out with the initial secure. But this is the one that we were talking about, where Sub-Zero just happens to get some of the pulls in, find some of the pressure, and then just being able to collapse on the team. So just a ton of pressure coming out from Warus Deportivo throughout the first 8 minutes, but Vivid Apex just really playing it to a T in the last two.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more here. The showtime actually was several times Mr. Mime was able to stick into the fight for a very long period of time. I think that was the host for the Comfey for most of the game here, and this is where it really starts to snowball in favor of Vivid, able to get that confirmation onto the Regirock and getting a lot of experience for the team here. Warus, again, doing a really good job at trying to stick into the game. They're able to get a KO really early on onto the Eldegoss. Here is the fight up here as well. This is again a really long and drawn out team fight where Regieleki was literally just collateral damage between the two teams here. It was suddenly at about 5% before the final stretch here, and the Bliss Assistance actually being activated a little bit early there. Maybe one thing to consider as they going into the final stretch to the 2-minute mark as well.
Yeah, I feel bad for this Regieleki. It was like, all I want to do is get out of here, but instead it just got literally collapsed on. And this is that final fight that I was talking about. They had the initial start onto Q1, but the rest of the team was there. The Moonlight being able to sustain the entire team throughout this fight, and then just being able to collapse in and find a couple 1v1s. And this is the specific point that really opened up the rest of the game. So really good work by Vivid Apex, just being able to close out these matches in definitive fashion and just make sure that they could find those openings that they need to in order to win the match.
I think one thing interesting about the tournament that we have today is that both of the teams that we saw win their game, they had the opportunity to watch the other team, since we have seen both of the sets that we have here today. And again, we do have a small pool of players, but that means that a lot of strategy can go into how you're going to be playing against the enemy team. And now, since both of the teams has had the opportunity to see what the winning team has been able to do, now that we head into the grand finals, it's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah, exactly. So, as stated, Vivid Apex moving on forward as they take the win over Warus Deportivo. When we come back, we will be bringing you guys the grand finals, as Vivid Apex is going to be facing off against Double N. Don't go anywhere. We'll be bringing you more of the Unite Battle Hub Anniversary Series when we come back. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Unite Battle Hub Anniversary Series EMEA. We are celebrating 1 year of Pokemon Unite and Unite Battle Hub in general. Once again, joined by Charles and Draku. So, yes, we have seen both of these teams play. Let's go ahead and start with you, Charles. What did you think about the match with Double N and how that played out?
As more and more matches go on, I just feel like Clefable is very strong. That AoE healing. Oh, you all right over there, Quinashi?
Your job is to fix my headset. That is it.
There
a little
we go.
sloppy here on the side of Quinashi here. Maybe I had a couple of too much fun over there on July 4th. It is July 4th here in the United States. So it's a
There you go.
fun
There you go.
day for us.
But yeah, Clefable just seems really strong because usually the counter to Clefable, to all the AoE healing, is any like AoE damage dealer, right? Or any Unite moves that have crazy burst damage. But none of these tanks or supports really have a Unite move that does that much damage. Most of the time, it's more a type of CC or utility or shield or any sort of that kind of utility that you bring to the table. So you don't have to worry about Clefable getting bursted down. Because of this, Clefable just feels so powerful, and you can just kind of group up and never getting taken down, and you're just this unstoppable death ball, if you will, right? So because of that, I'm not too sure if Clefable is strong enough to ban or not, but it feels like a lot of teams are going for consistent AoE damage. I feel like the Greed and Bullet Seed is actually really strong in this format because it's consistent damage and you're hitting multiple targets as well, right? So it could somewhat counteract the AoE healing, or if you just have Clefable on your side. I just feel like Clefable is extremely strong. I don't know if it's ban-worthy strong, like on the same tier as Hoopa or Lapras or anything like that, but Clefable feels like it's winning a lot of games.
Yeah, that is a fact. Go for it, Drew.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with as well. I mean, we saw in the last game, Waros wasn't able to get really as much AoE healing as the Clefable because they had a Comfey and they also had a Blissey as well. And in these long, kind of chaotic team fights, it might be, a little bit difficult to try to find your target if you are a Comfey, or same thing with Blissey to try to find your target if you're trying to heal them with a soft boil as well. And so at least with Clefable, you don't really have to worry about that because all you have to do is stand in the middle of the pile, try to keep yourself alive using your own Moonlight, and you're able to heal your entire team as well. So, I mean, we're seeing definitely a change up in the meta here because Clefable is able to apply that type of healing without having to worry about skill shotting your ability to the correct target like Comfey or like Blissey has to worry about in these fights that have a lot of CC, and it can get really crazy sometimes.
Yeah, I do agree in terms of like the way how they're playing it out. As we've seen, like team healing, especially with Moonlight, has been really, really prevalent throughout this match. And single target ones, yes, they do help a little bit, but the overall sustain, especially coming from like a defender draft like this, is very important. So as we're moving in, Double N leaning once again towards that Gudra, followed by the possible Flail Axe as well. Vivid Apex still looking to roll out with even more of that healing, and still surprised that Clefable is dropping to like the fourth layer of picks here.
Yeah, it feels like
we go ahead, Charles.
Okay. So, but it also feels like Eldegoss can fill that role too. It's not as strong healing wise, but you get a little bit more damage. So we do have AoE healing and single target healing on both sides here. I do think Clefable's AoE healing is a little bit more strong, but the Eldegoss gives you that strong early game, and you also get the utility of that AoE healed / AoE shield, right? So I think Eldegoss can kind of fill the same role as Clefable. So because of that, I kind of like the way Double N drafted here. The Greedent getting taken out because, I mean, we saw how strong Vivid was with the Greedent. So I agree with the ban here. And of course, the Hoopa ban, pretty standard. And I like the Eldegoss first pick too. I think that's another Pokemon that's very high priority in this format. Or even just in general too, right?
Yeah,
I totally agree with how...
We
were talking about how the teams were able to watch each other for these games here, and I think the ban from Double N is definitely a target ban rather than a character ban because of its its prowess as a character. I think they just saw that Vivid Apex did a really good job at literally securing every objective with a move that is typically not thought of as having high smiting ability with that Bullet Seed. So Double N, really good job at identifying a potential threat on the enemy team and then locking that down.
Yeah, so overall, getting ready for our grand final series between Double N and Vivid Apex. I'm going to toss it to you guys. Have a great cast.
All right.
Alrighty, everybody. We are heading on into the grand final set between Double N over on purple side and Vivid Apex over on orange side here. Snorlax, the big berry lax, heading into the jungle. Trevenant into the jungle on the side of Vivid Apex. In the bottom, we have these support defenders. And also in the top lane, we have, once again, the Eldegoss going to grab this red buff for itself to have a really solid early game pressure with the red buff and its passive ability, applying a lot of slow in all of its abilities.
Yeah, another thing that I really enjoyed about the last set as well was just watching Trevenant with the Pain Split. I think Pain Split is such a good move, specifically for this format where you're just going to have really long team fights, and you can get so much damage and healing off the Pain Split.
Yeah, I agree as well. Looks like they're going to go ahead and just trade some stacks here. The Sliggoo is actually almost level 5 here. If they're able to get one more piece of farm, they might retreat to grab that Baltoy. But the early jungle gang up here into the top lane, Trevenant trying to find a couple of characters here. They are going to be going for that Wood Hammer build. And it looks like we might have a Sliggoo pretty early on the field, as we do see in the bottom lane. The picture-in-picture, the Slowbro going down there, and Trevenant just doing a good job at finding some room for their team here as the Flail Lax heads up into the top lane. I don't know if they got a ton of utility out of that, but it looks like we got a couple of KOs here as the Gossifleur going down, the Clefable going down, as well as the Lax getting a small score of 14 onto the top goal. 67 to 52, now 67 to 66. Really close game.
Yeah, and this Flail Snorlax has been doing so much work, a lot of priority on the side of Double N, and we've seen other teams as well utilize this Flail Snorlax. Just does a great amount of damage, and in terms of all the options you have, it feels like one of the more consistent damage dealers out there, alongside with Gradient too. I think Gradient did a great job in terms of consistent damage. I think Snorlax also fills that role.
Right, potential jungle invade here, getting stuffed on the side of Double N, able to get 2 KOs onto the Trevenant, also onto the Clefable as well. We have a smaller engagement here. Flail Lax going into overdrive. Again, Flail does more damage the less HP that you have, so able to get a KO there onto the Lapras. And here comes Double N, getting a couple of additional KOs as well. You know, it's still pretty early on in the game, but any form of experience in this early game to get your defenders super healthy, to get their Unite moves, and to get their power spikes is only going to benefit you greatly in the later half of the game.
Yeah, EXP is the backbone. It is the main resource. You always want to hit those power spikes where your Pokemon evolves or get additional moves, and especially that Unite move towards the tail. And looks like we've got some action going on, a lot of pressure coming out from Vivid Apex onto this goal zone here on the bottom side. But here comes Snorlax, big flank coming through here. Looks like they're going really deep, but looks like Double N going to be able to defend this and even take out the Slowbro, perhaps. Oh, going to get out there, and there's the Clefable here. And look at all of this healing. But again, here comes the burst. This Flail Snorlax almost going to be able to take him out. Finally, Slowbro does go down, and Double N is going to push this team fight all the way down to this Registeel.
Yeah, Clefable and Comfy were doing a really good job until the Flail Lax came down here, and they just weren't. The healing just can't keep up with this Flail Lax coming in here, doing tons of damage. It's sitting at about 50%, less than 50%, but again, the Flail in overdrive here, able to get tons of damage the less HP that you have. And so finding that perfect balance of low HP to high attack damage is able to shred through the defenses of Vivid Apex.
Yeah, we talked about some of the counterplay to Clefable, and one of the things is that burst damage, right? If you have a lot of burst damage, or if you're able to have enough consistent damage to out-damage the said Moonlight, right? Or just whatever healing you're trying to go up against. And it feels like that's what Double N's plan was, and maybe that's why they didn't take the Clefable. They went more aggressive with the Flail Lax, with the Eldegoss, and look at this team fight up top.
Man, this is watching the Slowbro just shred apart that Slowbro in the bottom lane here, as we see him Double N kind of a little bit too far out here. It looks like Char might be going down, but it's still sitting at about 5%. Showtime coming in here to close the curtains to maybe help their Guja escape back home here. Unfortunately, Mime does go down. Here comes Vivid Apex trying to apply some pressure the other way. The Eldegoss, ooh, a slow beam onto the Eldegoss with a Bliss assistance onto the Eldegoss, keep them alive. Here comes a Cotton Crash as well to split up the enemy team to get some HP for themselves as well. Charking stuck in a very difficult situation, but here comes the Flail Lax. Let's see what they can do with this. They got the glowing hands, ready to throw some fists here. Gonna grab a citrus berry as they try to defend this goal zone. Sitting at level 11, that is gonna be a force to be reckoned with here. But here comes Vivid Apex trying to continue to apply pressure and siege this goal zone, as Snorlax is finally gonna be taken down here. Oh my gosh, with the eject button, they get away into the jungle. Oh my gosh.
Lives another day here. Snorlax not going to give up that XP, but looks like Double N might have to give up this Regieleki. They do not have the numbers. They're kind of trickling on in, but here comes 3. It's going to be a 3v4 here. Oh, but it looks like Regieleki going onto the side of Vivid.
There, but once again, Regieleki just taking all this collateral damage as Double N is still making their presence very well known up here as the Gudra tries to apply some pressure going the other way here, and it looks like despite getting the objective, Vivid Apex are starting to lose a lot of characters here. Trevenant looking really healthy with the flower crown attached to it, 2 points onto that top T1, potentially setting up for a large overcap in the top lane. And here comes the Phantom Force coming out of the Trevenant. They want another re-engage here. Snorlax hitting less than 50%, but it has the flail activated. The flowery fields put some more flower on the field as well here. 2 points are left here. Can they get a huge overcap as well? Let's see what they decide to do. The Clefable is forced back to the T2 and a 48-point overcap in the top lane. 234 to 149. This is almost a 100-point game in favor of Double N.
Double N is playing so well right now. They're able to get so much experience on the top. They got the overtank, and they got a bunch of the farm in the center side on the side of Blissey here. Another team fight going down, and it looks like Vivid Apex, it's their turn to put the pressure on. They're able to get the bottom goal zone here on this tier 1, and they're also probably going to rotate over to this bottom Reggie here. Yeah, you don't want to push that tier 2. It's going to be a little bit too risky. You can go ahead and just secure this Regice.
Yeah, here comes Double N if they have something to say about it, though. Mr. Mime lurking over on the left side here. Let's see what they can do with it. The Cotton Puff is trying to apply some pressure as well, so you have about 5% Surf on the field as well. Trevenant able to get it with the Woodhammer now, trying to get a couple of KOs as well. Uo is going to be going down here with their Mr. Mime. Scrambled Egg might get scrambled if they don't make it back home here. Tarking going to be forced to use that XP to get back into the jungle, and it looks like Vivid Apex showing some life here. Despite being down by 97 points, the levels are coming to parity, but if there is one character to watch, it's going to be that Barry Lax hitting level 15 before the 2-minute mark. So, cameraman, if there's someone you want to watch, it's going to be that Snorlax.
Yeah, really good stuff on Double N. They gave up the Reggie Ice because Snorlax was pretty much farming experience in the jungle, in that top side, the Aldinas as well. So we'll see if that experience is going to pay off. A lot of resources put into this Snorlax right now, and forcing the Clefable off the team here now. You're zoning with this Snorlax. Very good stuff on the side of Double N. The damage is continuing onward.
Final stretch has begun here, but it's definitely started before as the Lapras Express coming in here. Snorlax getting a KO here. Slowbeam finds the Snorlax as well, trying to hold them down, but Snorlax still sitting literally at 90%, gets a 2-piece for themselves. 3 KOs on the side of Vivid Apex with a huge KO timer as well. Obviously, Double N does not need this, but knowing that there's 2 score zones up for each team, they're going to go ahead and start the rip. Rayquaza being started by Double N here, sitting at about 50% now. Who is going to be able to get this confirmed? The burn has started, and it's about to go down here. And it's going to be the Gudra able to get the first Rayquaza of the grand finals here. Now the race is on, the foot race to the goal zones. Can they get some more going in here as the Trevenant does go down? And lots of points are going to be raining down here. And it looks like the white flag is going to be thrown up early on the side of Vivid Apex. Yeah, even with your attack-paced characters in ranked or in competitive, it is still very difficult to take down these shields. And if you have your supporter defenders, it might be good to say GG, go next, as we have Double N taking the first game of this grand final set.
My boy Snorlax is gotta be the MVP. We saw so much damage coming out on the side of Double N with the flail Snorlax. Look at all of this damage. Actually, not even doing the most damage, but it just felt so impactful in these team fights. Snorlax was able to secure a lot of KOs, and Snorlax was able to zone out that pesky Clefable that was doing all of that AoE damage, right? And on top of that, Snorlax you're just especially with the flail build, you're focusing more on just single target damage. So because of that, Snorlax was able to go on top of Clefable specifically, and if Clefable does not back off, then Clefable is just going to get destroyed by the Snorlax. So just really negating that AoE healing we were talking about earlier that makes Clefable feel so strong. Double N had an exact answer for that, which is one of the big reasons why they just did not draft the Clefable. Again, they still had AoE healing on the side of Double N with Eldegoss, but just a little bit more aggressive, right? With the Eldegoss, you're just able to pump out more damage with that AD build.
Who would have thought that the Snorlax is going to be one of the damage carry characters of this tournament here? We're going to take a look at some of the replays. I think this might be the first huge gank that the Flaillax come in here. It was a really big team fight on this bottom T1, but as soon as the Snorlax came in here, started unleashing the fists here, still sitting at about 5%. We can see the damage going into overdrive, getting 2 KOs down there in the bottom lane. We're going to head up here into the top lane as well. Once again, as we've seen time and time again with this tournament, just long and drawn out team fights. I think this was where Vivid Apex was showing some life, able to get some KOs here in the first break onto the goals on the top lane as well.
Yeah, and I think the big macro decision that really put Double N on top towards the tail end is when they gave up that bottom Reggie and they just had Snorlax go into the jungle, go into their top area, just get as much farm, as much experience as possible, just so that tail end they can win that team fight with the Snorlax damage. And then on top of that, usually when we see in this format, at least, since the damage is so low, even though a team wins a team fight and they rotate over to Rayquaza, they're not able to burn it in time because they just don't have enough damage. But with this, they were able to secure a team fight and then rotate quickly over to Rayquaza. And with the Flail Snorlax, they didn't necessarily eliminate the fact that they could have been flipped, but they were able to deal enough damage to the point where not all of Vivid Apex were respawned in there in time to contest them as hard.
Down here into the Reggie Ice as well. I mean, going into this next game, what do you think might be some adjustments to be made on the side of Vivid Apex? Obviously, they might need an answer to this Snorlax because Double N obviously taking first blood here, getting the first game and identifying that, you know, Clefable was a character that they needed to take down here. What do you think they should do going into this next game, Charles?
It's hard. You might have to put a little bit more utility in terms of just having some sort of peel for the Clefable because of this Snorlax becoming an issue. Another option is just banning out the Snorlax. If you look on the side of Double N, they use their ban on Greedent. So there's just not a lot of damage dealers in this format. So I think even though Hoopa is very strong and also is considered, I mean, especially when you pop the Unite move, can be considered to do a lot of damage, but that's only with the Unite move. So maybe if you are Vivid Apex, I believe you are first pick, so now you don't really have to burn the ban on Hoopa. Maybe you could throw the ban on Snorlax.
A Snorlax ban here. I mean, we've seen a target ban on the green already, so definitely might be an option as well. So I don't know. It's hard to have like it's fun to have these types of discussions on characters that, you know, don't really, you know, get to shine as much as you know, the higher meta pick characters. Do you think maybe Snorlax might be like a top meta pick in this type of setting, or maybe it's just the player doing a really good job? You know,
I think it's definitely a little bit of both, and I think the main thing is that there's just not a lot of damage dealers in general. So because this resource just feels so scarce, if they take out Greedent and you don't take out Snorlax, then what is your damage dealer? Or if you are going to go for this, I'm just going to be an unstoppable ball, right, with my team, just 5 members stacked up on each other with the Clefable, then you need something to protect the Clefable. I think that's the main thing. So you either have to take out the Snorlax in terms of just like banning it, or you need to figure out some way to keep the Snorlax out, because one thing about Flail is you don't have Heavy Slam. So Heavy Slam is usually the way Snorlax just jumps in, gets the knockup for the CC, right? So Snorlax has to walk into your team. And I mean, the only other option you can take with the Flail is either going to be the block or the Yawn. Yawn, kind of a mid-range move, but you know, it is a skill shot. It can be a little harder to hit at that max range. So if there's any kind of Pokemon that they could pick up on the side of Vivid that can keep the Snorlax back, or they could go ahead and pick it away as well. Right, that is another option for Vivid. They could go ahead and first pick the Snorlax. They could ban it. There's a lot of different options, but I think the main thing is if you are going to draft Clefable, you need to make sure the enemy team doesn't have an answer to just drive single target damage into the Clefable to push Clefable out of the fight. Because to disarm the Clefable healing, you don't necessarily have to take out the Clefable because there's not that much burst damage. But if you do enough single target damage, then the Clefable just has to move away from the team, right? So at the very least, something like that. As long as they understand that concept and they can protect the Clefable if they're going to draft Clefable, it's a pretty huge commitment, I think.
I think one thing to think about as well is, I mentioned in the game the mechanics of how flail works is that, the less damage or the more damage that Snorlax takes, the more damage that the flail is dishing out as well. And I think on the side of Vivid Apex, they actually do have a lot of crowd control on their team, at least with that last game. I believe they were running like Surf on the Slowbro, they had Woodhammer onto the Trevenant, and so they had a lot of resources to deal with the Clefable, but maybe they were burning their resources, their abilities too soon, taking out a lot of damage onto the Snorlax. But in Snorlax taking all of this damage and not really being able to KO the Snorlax outright, you leave the door wide open for Flail to really go into overdrive and then dealing that amount of damage into the Clefable as well. So kind of these like micro decision makings on when to use your ability and how to protect your team might be advantageous to think about on the side of Vivid Apex. Obviously, it's easier for us to say here on the caster's end of things on when to time your abilities, but it might be something to think about to stop this Flail Lax from running you over.
Yeah, you just don't want to put yourself in a position where Snorlax is anywhere between like 10% to 50% health, right? It's just anywhere in that range and you're not able to burst the Snorlax, then Snorlax is just going to be doing even more damage and it's just going to snowball out of control, and you never want to get reversaled like that, especially after using all of your resources and then getting reversal like that. It's usually going to spell the end of the team fight for your team.
All right. The first here looks like Lapras is going to be banned out on the side of Vivid Apex, and it looks like they're hovering over the Hoopa on the side of Double N here. So no bans on the Greedent and no bans onto the Snorlax as well here. So let's see where they decide to go with. So Vivid Apex did not have their ace in that first game, which was that Bullet Seed Greedent. Let's see if they pick it up here, as Greedent is actually going to be the first selection of this game on the side of Vivid Apex, and we already know what it's going to be. It's going to be that Bullet Seed Greedent for their team.
Yeah, and we saw Vivid make huge plays in semis with this Greedent. It was target banned last time, but now because Double N is on the second pick, they are forced to go ahead and ban away the Hoopa. Yeah, it looks like both Greedent and Snorlax very high priority for both these teams.
Yeah, they have their aces that did really well in their respective games here, as we do see the Gudra and the Slowbro being picked out as well. Lots of healing on the side of Double N here. They already have the Eldegoss, potentially the Blissey here. Clefable is still not picked out on the side of Vivid Apex or Double N, so I think that is going to be another high priority character. But I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll just pick up all like defenders / bulky supporters that we might not have. Nah, there's a Clefable coming in here and the Comfey as well, which means most likely TH is going to pick up that Blissey for the final pick to round out their healing for the team. That's my guess, I think.
Yeah, and I like the way Vivid drafted this, because instead of going with the early Clefable pick, they locked down Slowbro, and Slowbro is notoriously known for being able to essentially shut down any Pokemon, right? Any speedsters, so you definitely, if you can shut down speedsters with Snorlax, just point and you click and that's it. It's going to be able to work on Snorlax as well. So really good stuff, really great draft on the side of Vivid.
I gotta say though, I mean, Slowbro's been picked almost every single game, if not banned outright. But kind of like how we were saying with Umbreon, and how the utility of the character is really dependent on like the enemy team having like squishier characters or high attack damage carry characters.
Right.
I kind of think the same way here for Slowbro as well. Slow Beam might be literally the best Unite move in competitive Pokemon Unite, but it might not have as much utility here because if your team cannot burst down the target of the Slow Beam, then it's kind of a wasted ability. We kind of saw it a couple of times in that last game where the Slowbro locked down the Eldegoss, but the Eldegoss was able to be kept alive by the Bliss Assistance, for example, or just being kept alive by AoE healing or kept alive by single target healing from the Blissey as well. And so maybe Slowbro might not be like the best pick here because of those types of interactions between defender and defender.
Right. It's a very good point. I think the main thing you want to use the CC for in this scenario is just to make sure you protect the Clefable, right? So Snorlax comes in at full health. Even if you don't necessarily burst the Snorlax down, you can ignore the Snorlax at the very least, right? And the Clefable can get a little bit more value from that AoE healing, can maybe stay in the fight for a little bit longer. So maybe we'll see Vivid use the utility that Slowbro brings. And of course, I mean, Slowbro just such a powerful Pokemon, even in, you know, the regular format that we usually play with all the classes available. So Slowbro just having so much damage output, especially with the Slick Spoon, and just an incredible early game as well.
Yeah, the Aces are heading into the jungle here. Looks like a couple of stacks are going to be traded up into the top lane as Gudra is going to try to get a couple of stacks and try to become a Sliggoo in this early game as well, using that bubble as a good shield and also for a good form of securing as well. We see the jungle lax heading down into the bottom lane. Green just a little bit slower on the clear, but it looks like maybe Snorlax had a little bit of an early gank as it goes back to its blue buff in the top lane, or in the right side.
Yeah, and like you said, I think this is going to be a really great match to watch just because both aces are online, right? We saw Vivid, I mean, the Greedent was carrying so hard in semis, and then, of course, Double N just really known for this. Snorlax, the Flaillax, just so strong on the side of Double N. So now I really want to see both of these Pokemons kind of clash together.
Yeah, in the potentially last game here. Tarkin is going to grab 2 with that Woodhammer as well here. Sliggoo is now on the field as well. We do have Eldegoss still struggling to get that level 4 evolution as well. Likes is going to be taken down here as well. Tarkin still struggling at about 5%. Is going to be taken down, but the Clefable, lots of characters being KO'd in this early engagement in the top lane as the jungle Greedent still sitting up into the top lane, maybe trying to get some stacks before they retreat back into their jungle.
Yeah, back and forth here, but a small victory for Vivid just because I think the Greedent surviving is a big deal in a sense of you're able to get more experience onto the Greedent faster, but it was still an even 2-for-2 trade on the fight for the upper birds here in the top path. That experience very important. Clefable online here. Looks like we are going to be having a little scrap here for the center birds as well. And wow, looks like Snorlax picking up a lot of that.
Wow, and the Snorlax is going to put 2 characters to sleep here. Flailllax is online now. Bulletsy also online as well, doing a lot of damage into this front line. Scrambled Egg is getting scrambled by the seeds here as the Slowbro able to get the KO onto the Blissey, the Mime onto the Greedent as well. So lots of experience going over to that Mr. Mime. Slowbro gets a 2-piece for themselves as well. It looks like Likes, are they going to be able to make it back home? No, that basic attack is going to hold them down, and Clefable is struggling to get back home too. This is going to be a 2-for-1 if they get the Comfey as well. The Woodhammer and the Hornleech does miss their mark, but it's just a lone Comfey as Double N taking first blood onto the gold zones, breaking that and having really optimal position on this bottom Reggie. Now Reggie Eye starting to be worked on here. Look at all this damage coming out from the Flailllax as well. It's already being taken off of the field. It is still a full HP Snorlax and still so much damage going into this character as Slowbro retreats back into the central area. Let's see if they can make it back home here. Top lane, we do have a small skirmish, a 2v2 in the top lane, and looks like it's going to be waiting for the rest of the team here as they navigate up into the top lane.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. My internet just had a little hiccup there. All right, so now getting back into this bottom path, it looks like another team fight, or no, top. Looks like we are located here, and it looks like the fight for the Regieleki is on board. A lot of scrambling here, got the eggs being thrown, and Trevenant really on this backline. The Gudra just slapping it up here, and it's like the Flailllax has entered, and looks like could be enough damage. No. Everyone's still alive here, but finally Greedent going down.
Yeah, once again, a huge skirmish up in the top lane. A Bliss assisted going into the pile up here. I think it's Fallon, the Snorlax in the top lane as well as Slowbro and Comfey. A 2-for-1 once again is going to be going down here. They're going to go ahead and retreat to start working on this Regieleki up into the top lane. Here comes the Snorlax. Flailllax coming online as well. The glowing hands coming out. The fist coming out. Look at this damage going into the Regieleki, and it's going to be taken with ease by Double N here. Let's go and take a look at the goal zone. 34 on the goal zone here. Looks like they're going to opt to defend this on the side of Vivid Apex. A huge 6v5 with the Regieleki to Steed as well. A power nap onto the goal zone as well here. And they actually retreat from the goal zone. 9 points on the goal zone, and that is a 21 over onto that top T1. And the scores are starting to divide here, and they want some more. Oh my gosh, here all the characters are down on the side of Vivid Apex. I think they didn't expect an additional push here onto the T2, and it brought all the way down to 8. Berry belly bomb onto the pileup here. A cotton crash onto the pileup as well here, and it looks like Double N is going to be making it back home here. The passive ability on the Trevenant is still online. Greedent taking 1 KO. Snorlax sitting on a pixel. Do they decide to chase here? The Slowbro being slow is on the chase, and it looks like the Snorlax able to make it back home once again.
Wow, and you're able to get so much value if you're Double N. You got the Regieleki up top. You were able to get that tier 1 goal zone and then push a lot of points into that tier 2 goal zone. Incredible stuff, and only losing 1. Double N retreats back to defend this tier 1 goal zone up top here, and it looks like they're going to do exactly that.
This is really dangerous here. If you're Vivid Apex, you don't want to hit this Snorlax if it's sitting at less than 50% HP. And Regirock is on the field, and just like that, it is ripped off of the field. And another objective going over to the side of Double N. Guja, unfortunately, unable to get that one. A Phantom Forest lights up the field in the bottom lane. And Guja, can they make it anywhere here? They're getting CC'd all over the place, but the Trevenant doing a really good job at defending this goal zone. Once again, 4 points on the goal zone. Do they decide to break the small to get some positioning here? The Rain has been brought down by this Guja. It also has a Comfey to support the Rain as well. And let's see, can they do this here? This is a long and extended team fight, and it looks like they're going to be forced to cut their... Oh my gosh, they get a small over. That is a 1 point cap there, just to make sure they get some positioning on maybe one more Reggie in the bottom lane.
And of course, the Snorlax flank coming in for the cleanup. Going to get a bunch of this experience. Slowbro dealing as much damage as possible. Wow, going for the eject button and going to stall as much time as possible here. Slowbro might be able to get out against this 3 here. And of course, here comes the Moonlight, the healing. Going to make sure Slowbro is all right and comes all the way back home.
All right, the score right now 278 to 143. Double N really starting to show their prowess here as the levels start to divide even further. That Snorlax knocking on the door of being level 14 by the final stretch here. The Flail once again going into overdrive. The Fist glowing, and the Green is taking all of this damage. It's forced to use that Stuffed Cheeks to get out of there, get some HP. Even with the Comfey, it is very difficult as they do find the Clefable, as the Clefable goes down as well, and he slams on the brakes there as the Snorlax able to get a couple more KOs as well, and they are almost level 14 going into this final stretch. Charles, I don't know what they're going to do, but Vivid needs to find an answer for this Big Berry Lax.
The Big Berry Lax is doing so much damage with the Flail, and again, Double N doing an incredible job of funneling all of this experience. Usually they will give up objectives, but this time all the objectives going to the side of Double N, or at least it feels that way for this game, and they got a lot of scoring, and another objective secured. Reggie still on the side of Double N, and now this Snorlax is level 14 coming into this final stretch.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like we got some dunks going on.
Objective, but they're getting a Reggie steal on top of that as well. That is the scariest Reggie to find here as the Slow Beam finds the Eldegoss. I don't know if that was the proper target there because they do have this Flail Lax. Here comes the Bliss Assistance going up into the pile-up, and the Vivid Apex is falling like dominoes here. 3 characters are down. The Guja with the Comfey is the only one left here, and this might be an ace for Double N as they're able to wipe out Vivid Apex and grab this Rayquaza for themselves, and the white flag has been thrown up. That is your champion of today's Unite Battle Hub Anniversary Series. Congratulations, Double N, on this victory today.
Yeah, and congratulations to the Flail Snorlax coming through. No one could defeat the Flail Snorlax, not even the Greedent Bullet Seed, right? So a lot of fun builds that we got to cast throughout this entire tournament. Shout outs to the 1-year anniversary for Unite Battle Hub, bringing us all of this action. You guys can come through and enjoy. And this time, little twist, only supports, only tanks. It was a very interesting meta, to say the least.
Yeah. Man, who would have thought that Flaylax was going to be the hero of the tournament here, really putting into overdrive on the side of Double N, 89k going over to this character. Obviously, it doesn't have that kind of same sustain damage it can apply like the Trevenant, getting 121k damage for themselves as well. But definitely a really awesome and fun rule set to see today, and to see how this meta and this very niche rule set kind of evolves.
Yeah, we saw a lot of different approaches to it. We saw how strong Clefable could be. We saw how the counters to Clefable can come through and interact with all of these different team comps. And of course, the star of the show, the Flail Snorlax, man, was really fun to watch. We saw Mr. Mime a lot as well. And we saw so many times the Mr. Mime barrier come in so clutch to just hold off objectives, really cut the different paths of the opponent. That utility was just shined, especially with the Flaylax, right? When you can keep your opponent's team really close to the Flail Snorlax and really not give them these routes to escape. I was really fun to watch all the interactions between Mr. Mime and all the rest of the team alongside of Snorlax, and really making sure that this power pick came through and had so much value. And look at this Snorlax at such low health. You're able to do so much damage in those situations.
Yeah, you think you're able to KO this Snorlax really easily, but then it starts dishing out like 25 to 30% damage per hit of that flail as well. But this game, this type of rule set, again, you're gonna have these long and drawn out team fights. It's really hard to get a significant lead for your team, and I think that's what we saw, at least in these last two games. Double N was really just able to prioritize the levels on their Snorlax by giving them experience, but also in the Snorlax player as well, getting a lot of KOs for themselves. I mean, when you think about the characters that are on the field here, who's going to be getting the last hits? It's most likely going to be that Snorlax, doing tons of burst damage relative to the rest of your team.
Yeah, and they're able to get so much of a lead, especially in this push. Vivid was able to defend here. They were able to fight back, but they're only able to get one KO here, and then Double N was able to get out and have a pretty sturdy defense on that goal zone on the top. And here towards the end, we have the fight really close here to the final stretch for this bottom area, and not any objectives up, but Slowbro almost made it out of that situation, but he ended up getting KO'd. But here is one of the last fights, the scramble right before the Rayquaza ended up spawning in, and this was such a great team fight because Double N was able to rotate down and get that Registeel that spawns in 20 seconds from there. And then this, I know you pointed out earlier, using the Unite move on the Eldegoss, was it worth it, right?
Yeah, this is a huge pile up here where the Blitz Assistance really did a ton of damage as it went into the group of enemies there. And this is I think this might be the only team wipe that we saw the entire tournament. It was the last game of the tournament here. Really solid Blitz Assistance, really just literally just dropping a bomb on the enemy team and getting that team wipe. But welcome back, Kwagashi. How are you doing? What'd you think of that last game?
Very good overall. Yeah, just don't mess with the Snorlax. Don't wake him up. Just let him sleep. He will punch you.
Yeah, it needs his beauty sleep, or else he's gonna put you to sleep.
Oh yes, the flail was just so incredible, and the way that Double N was able to enable the Snorlax was really fun to see. Because I mean, most teams you could be like, oh well, like just pick up the Snorlax and go, right? But the way that Double N was able to funnel all that experience in, and were able to play around these team fights and really enable the Snorlax, was really fun to watch.
Totally agree. He just the entire play was just protect the president, and then just let him go like, bah. That's it.
Yeah, especially with things like Bliss Assist and stuff like that. I'm imagining Bliss Assist on top of a Snorlax. It's like, oh man, you just can't stop. Like it gets so out of hand. And I really like the priority on Eldegoss too. I think the Eldegoss along with the Snorlax, both these Pokemon are known for their early game as well. So you're able to set up all of these different funnels and really take control of these lanes, right? And man, Eldegoss felt like such a powerful pick.
Yeah, unfortunately, in that last game, the Green wasn't able to get into get themselves going there. We saw them really pull out the stops in that set number 2 that we saw today. But if there's gonna be something that's gonna stop you, it's gonna be another character that has a berry attached to it.
Literally in the berry.
Yeah.
is the citrus berry.
Yeah.
I am citrus berry.
Yeah. I don't
Just-
give you health. I take away yours.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, matches overall great. It was once again a very wonky format, nothing that we would normally see, but definitely some exciting games and pressure coming out from both sides. So yeah,
Yeah, I had a
that
good
is
time.
gonna-
It was. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Charles.
I was just gonna say I had a good time. It's always fun to see teams adapt to some kind of wonky rule set that really doesn't have a meta, right? And you kind of just have to think like, okay, well, where's our damage? Where's our peel? Where's our secure? How are we gonna play it? So all these different, very different play sets or play styles you get to see really come through. And I mean, you don't get to see Flail Snorlax a lot and all the different stuff. So
Yeah.
very fun and interactive to see.
I have to agree as well, but this again is an entire celebratory month for us here at the Unite Battle Hub. We are celebrating again 1 year of providing community events and grassroots tournaments for all of you. Today again was the EMEA where we featured all the defenders and all of the supporters. We got 2 more of these coming up later on this month. Next Tuesday we are going to have the Latin America on the 11th, and this one also going to be another fun and exciting rule set. This one is going to be called The Furious and the Fast. Might be a little ode to a movie series that you might know, but this is going to be only all-rounders and only speedsters. And then to close off our anniversary series, we have the anniversary series NA at the towards the end of the month on the 18th, and that is going to be the Attacker Assault with only attacker-based Pokemon able to be selected. So I hope you guys had fun today, and we got 2 more of these to go. But other than that, you guys have any closing thoughts before we say adieu to our audience today?
I had a great time. Thanks for having me, guys. And I can't wait to see what other interesting metas we have for the 1-year anniversary series.
yeah. Once again, great series. It's going to be interesting to see how the other rule sets play out, and especially with what we saw today, I'm excited to see everything that goes down. But overall, congrats to Double N for taking home the win. And yeah, thanks to Charles and Draku for bringing us all the action on that final set. I am Kogashi. Kanashi is somewhere, I don't know. But that will wrap it up for Unite Battle Hub Anniversary Series EMEA, celebrating 1 year of Unite Battle Hub. Once again, we'll see you guys on the rest of the broadcast later down the line this month. So stay tuned with us on Twitter and also here if you guys do want to catch the other games. So once again, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys on the next one.
Trevin is doing a good job at finding some room for their team here as the Flail Lax heads up into the top lane. I don't know if they got a ton of utility out of that, but it looks like we got a couple of KOs here as the Gossipler going down. Also Fable as well. We have a smaller engagement here. Flail Lax going into overdrive. Again, Flail does more damage the less HP that you have, so able to get a KO there onto the Lapras. And here comes Double N, getting a couple of additional KOs as well.
Fable here, and look at all of this healing. But again, here comes the burst. This Flail Snorlax almost going to be able to take him out. Finally, Slowbro does go down, and Double N is going to push this team fight all the way down to this Registeel.
Yeah, Fable and Comfy were doing a really good job until the Flail Lax came down here, and they just weren't. The healing just can't keep up with this Flail. Stuck in a very difficult situation, but here comes the Flail Lax. Let's see what they can do with this. They got the glowing hands, ready to throw some fists here. Going to grab a Citrus Berry as they try to defend this goal zone. Sitting at level 11, that is going to be a force to be reckoned with here. But here comes Vivid Apex trying to continue to apply pressure and siege this goal zone, and Snorlax is finally going to be taken down
You
here.
have to give up this Regieleki. They do not have the numbers. They're kind of trickling on in, but here comes 3. It's going to be a 3v4 here. Oh, but it looks like Regieleki going onto the side of Vivid.
Confirmed there, but once again, Regieleki is taking all this collateral damage as Double N is still making their presence very well known up here as the Gudra tries to apply some pressure coming out of the Trevenant. They want another re-engage here. Snorlax hitting less than 50%, but it has the flail activated. The Flowery Fields put some more flower on the field as well here. 2 points are left here. Can they get a huge overcap as well? Clefable is forced back to the T2 and a 48-point fail by the Missile lurking over on the left side. Is applying pressure as well, so about 5% surf on the field as well. Trevenant able to get it with the Woodhammer now, trying to get a couple of KOs as well. Uo is going to be going down here with their Mr. Mime. Scrambled egg might get scrambled if they don't make it back. Double N does not need this, but knowing that there's 2 score zones up for each team, they're going to go ahead and start the rip. Rayquaza being started by Double N here, sitting at about 50% now. Who is going to be able to get this confirmed? The burn has started, and it's about to go down here, and it's going to be the Gudra able to get the first Rayquaza of the grand finals here. Now the race is on.
It's just so strong on the side of Double N. So now I really want to see both of these Pokemons kind of clash together.
Yeah, in the potentially last game here, Charking is going to grab 2 with that Woodhammer as well here. Sligo is now on the field as well. We do have Eldegoss still struggling to get that level 4 evolution as well. Likes is going to be taken down here as well. Tarking still struggling at about 5%. Is going to be taken down, but the Clefable also online as well, doing a lot of damage into this front line. Scrambled is getting scrambled by the Seeds here as the Slowbro able to get the KO onto the Blissey, the Mime onto the Greedent as well. So lots of experience going over to that Mr. Mime. Slowbro gets a 2-piece for themselves as well. It looks like Likes, are they going to be able to make it back home? No, that basic attack is going to hold them down, and Clefable struggling to get back home too. This is going to be a 2-for-1 if they get the Comfey as well. The Woodhammer and the Oranleech does miss their mark, but it's just a lone Comfey. Goal zone 34 on the goal zone here. Looks like they're going to opt to defend this on the side of Vivid Apex. A huge 6v5 with the Regieleki at the Steed as well. A Power Nap onto the goal zone as well here, and they actually retreat from the goal zone. 9 points on the goal zone, and that is a 21 right here. They want some more. Oh my gosh, here all the characters are down on the side of Vivid Apex. I think they didn't expect an additional push here onto the T2 and brought all the way down to 8. Berry Belly Bomb onto the pileup here. A Cotton Crash onto the pileup as well here, and it looks like Double N is going to be making it back home here. The passive ability on the Trevenant is still online. Greedent taking 1 KO. Snorlax sitting on him. They get a small over. That is a 1-point cap there, just to make sure they get some positioning on maybe one more Reggie in the bottom lane.
And of course, the Snorlax flank coming.
14 by the final stretch here. The Flail once again going into overdrive. The Fist flowing, and the Green is taking all of this damage. It's forced to use that Stuffed Cheeks to get out of there, get some HP. Even with the Comfey, it is very difficult as they do find the Clefable, as the Clefable goes down as well, and he slams a Registeel on top of that as well. That is the scariest Reggie to find here, as the Slowbeam finds the Eldegoss. I don't know if that was the proper target there, because they do have this Flail Lax. Here comes the Bliss Assistance going up into the pileup, and the Vivid Apex is falling like dominoes here. 3 characters are down. The Gudra with the Comfey is the only